What some of the leaders are saying, Mheshimiwa Simbarati, talk to your leaders, guide your people.
Kiharu Member of Parliament in Nyeri, close ally of President William Ruto, has dismissed the ongoing bipartisan talks as a waste of time. Ndindi, who has called for the talks, which asked Kenya to resume, claims that Kenyans went to the polls last year and chose who they want to lead them. According to the legislator, the bipartisan talks team's first priority should be to end the talks because they will lead nowhere. Ndindi stated that the country cannot wake up every day and night to politics and battles for leadership positions.
Hatuwezi kila siku ni kazi ya viongozi, kila siku viongozi. Sasa hawa wadosi wote viongozi, wadosi hawa wetu kabisa wananchi, waliongea August last year. Na wakasema huyu ndiye ataongoza, na wakasema mwingine atakuwa leader of opposition ama atafanya kazi ya kucheck wale wamechaguliwa. Kwa hivyo with no doubt and with certainty, me as Dede Nyoro and the people of Murang'a, the people of Kiharu, the people of Kenya, we are pleading that as the talks resume, the first agenda should be actually to terminate the talks.
And Azimio leaders are now claiming that their Kenya counterparts, especially from the Mount Kenya region, have neglected their responsibilities to fight for the rights of the residents. Led by NARC Kenya party leader Martha Karua, they have accused the leaders of not ensuring that their region gets enough resources, promising to continue pressuring the government to distribute resources equally. According to Karua, the leaders are being pressured by the government not to discuss the issues. Karua has also criticized the new education funding system for tertiary institutions, claiming that the system will discriminate against some students.
Ngozi wa Mount Kenya walinyamazishwa wakati walikuwa kule Sagana. Wakaogopa kusema one man, one vote, one shilling.
One man, one vote, one shilling.
Hiyo ingine?
Wakasema one man, one plate, one soda.
One soda.
Yes.
You know, wakasahau masilahi ya watu wa Mount Kenya. Hatutaogopa. Tutaitisha haki yetu kulingana na katiba. Na kuitisha haki yetu sio kufinyilia wengine, hata kusema hiyo mvumo mpya wa kugawa pesa ya university loans. Kwanza ni loan, sio free.
This is Newswire. Dennis Asada, good morning.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
Three, two.
Everybody, welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation.
Nyeri Latifa, Muga, Madam Du, nimesalimia wote sana.
Tumepokea salamu, asante sana.
Hapa Garissa today the weather is very good, only that baridi inatupeleka mbio sana.
Sasa baridi ni degree ngapi hapo?
Hata sijui, lakini madam tunakauka sana.
If you want to follow the money trail, you've got to think like a thief to be able to catch that thief.
A slap from a friend is better than a kiss from an enemy. You remember the kiss of Judas Iscariot? Iscariot.
Yes.
Is the one that imetuweka kwa hii mashida yote na mataabu kwa sababu of that kiss. Yet the slap of Jesus Christ, when he slapped those guys and walikuwa na uza mboga ndani ya kanisa, took them to heaven.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Thank you very much, Eric, and it's good to be at the Situation Room.
Always a pleasure coming here. This is the most challenging interview panel in Kenya. You guys are very well informed, and as you can see, Charles today very philosophical.
To be poor in this country is the greatest sin you can commit, not just from a legal perspective, but from life generally. Yeah. It is very, very skewed.
We've just heard on the floor of parliament, just most recently, a leader within the ODM saying that sisi ni ng'ombe is a baba.
Yeah.
Which means that you are willing to be milked dry.
Hapo.
You cannot force me to believe. I'll give way. If it's land that I'm told to return to you, I will. Okay? Because the court has said so. But I'll continue saying, watu wamenirusha. That's all that I'm doing.
You tune into Kenya's biggest conversation. My name is Ramanyang.
Amen. Amen.
So 1 hour is over?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
It gets over
Can you imagine
in 20 minutes.
what the big boys have also done?
I'm very proud of myself.
When you understand about partnership in politics, it's like the way marriage is these days. When you're looking for a wife, you're like, oh, maybe you can help me pay for fees as I pay for the rent.
Why should you have a lioness living in your bedroom?
I have to tell you a story. I went for a prayer meeting, which was called for the spouses of candidates for senators and governors. And when I got to the gate, the lady who was the secretary, she refused to. She's telling me, no. Leo tunataka wa mama. Leo ni wa mama. I'm telling her, no. She said, no, sio siku yenu. And I thought, there's a problem here, because if it was a man, but this was a lady.
It will be called First Ladies until you change the name.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
If you go out of this country and come back the same person, then you have a problem. Buy land, 1 million. Put it there for 5 years. What's the purpose?
It'll have increased in value.
No, that's the thing. That's darkness. That's an eclipse. You don't do that.
I hope you don't believe that a hustler is a poor person or that all hustlers are poor. I've seen that conversation.
Tell us, who is a hustler?
Who's a hustler? Hustler is a person who is making a living through hard work.
Corruption in Kenya is a political accusation. The people who are actually corrupt are not pointed fingers at.
Kenya is not free. Kenya imeshikwa na mateka. It's under siege.
Have you seen that lodge on Nyeri Road? Very high fence. You can't even
Windows
sleep inside.
up near the ceiling.
Yes. And if you walk there at midnight, you see bats the size of cows.
And when it rains, it doesn't rain on that building.
Yes.
When you're at All Saints and it's raining, it doesn't rain on that building.
The things people will believe.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Good morning. It's Monday, and it looks like it's going to be quite a busy one. A little bit of traffic starting to build up here and there. Jogo Road not looking too busy until you get to that junction at the City Stadium roundabout. And then heading on to Landis, you'll see some movement as you try to then connect towards Haile Selassie. Haile Selassie from the Kamkunji roundabout. On the Thika Superhighway, not much action happening right now. Coming off Outer Ring Junction and then onto the Thika Superhighway, we'll see some movement here and there. Nothing too painful at the moment. The Northern Bypass is looking free and clear. Use that to get onto Kiambu Road and then through to Muthaiga Square out into the city. Are you on Gong Road? You'll be fine. Coming off Mombasa Road as well, not looking too messy right now. Everybody's yet to wake up this Monday at a few minutes after 6 o'clock. Let's see how it pans out and talk on Spice FM. KE on Twitter.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Hapo. And we begin on that note. Hey, how are you doing? Ndu?
Yes.
Hamambo vipi?
Salama kabisa. Roho yangu imefurahi kukuona. Hey, have you heard that Kiswahili? Guys, please take a moment. Hey. Have you heard that Kiswahili?
Roho imefurahi.
Inafanya duke.
Ati duke.
Duke.
Okay. Ndu?
Yes.
Okay.
Do.
City.
Brother, karibu sana.
How you doing?
I am doing very well.
Hey.
I acknowledge
that Ndu is better, is doing better than I am.
No, please excuse me. It's just that I did not record. Did you see CT walking into the building this morning?
My friend.
Where? It's like he was on a white horse, just not even trotting, prancing.
You do understand that a horse is a horse, whether it's white, black, brown, you know.
No.
And I really have no idea how to ride a horse.
Have you seen a purebred Arabian?
Who?
No.
Purebred Arabian.
I've heard of them.
Walking. It doesn't walk like your run-of-the-mill just horse. The way... Even the horse itself knows it is special.
Clippity clap.
Not clippity clap, not that one. Now this one is regal in its movement. Hey,
it knows.
It
knows it's purebred.
It's not those ones.
It's not one enjoy to go for.
No.
Only kings ride on it.
If they even get the privilege.
Even that is not a guarantee.
Yeah.
What? Hey,
that's how City now came walking this morning.
That's how City was this morning.
Monday.
It's Monday?
Monday.
Okay.
You love Mondays, don't you, City?
I actually love Mondays, that's true.
Yeah?
I love Mondays. It's some mental gymnastics that I had to perform a couple of decades ago. Because Mondays used to be a complete downer.
Yeah.
In fact, a downpour.
Yeah.
You think of Monday, you just feel unwell. So I thought this one I have to reverse this. This is nonsense.
It's all in the mind. You're one of those people of manifesting things.
Yeah, this thing is in my head. I said, I'm going to change this thing. I've got to look forward to Monday. Yes.
So now
Sunday, I'm rearing to go. I'm waiting for Monday. Monday arrives, I'm with it.
Yeah. And then at what point does reality hit?
On Wednesday. By that time, the week is going to end.
And then tell yourself, hi Suru, another Monday is coming.
Yeah, it's okay. We can manifest again on Sunday.
We can go to another Monday.
And how are you? You were greatly missed. Karibu sana.
Asante sana. Greatly missed you guys as well. I caught up with the shows and the few bits that I could. I think mostly on Monday and Tuesday. No, not even Monday. But then thereafter, heavy and busy. Yeah, but you see, catching up with the show again later was also something. Yeah. The Devolution Conference in Eldoret was amazing this year. This was, I could say, I've attended 4 of the 7, 4 of the 8, 5 of the 8 so far, right?
And you're counting as you move along.
There's the 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2.
No, it was 5 of the 8.
5 of the 8, just like that. So the first one was in Kwale, then the second was in Kisumu. Kwale I didn't attend, Kisumu I attended. The next one was in Kakamega, I did not attend. Next, Nakuru I attended. And then Meru I attended.
Then
and then Kirinyaga I did not attend. And then Makueni I attended. And Wasingishu. Watu ya Eldoret wamesalimia nyinyi sana. Salamu nakuja namnai. Inamwagika namnai.
Kama mvua. Mingi. Every corner I turned, people like, say hello to City and Do. Say hello to City and Do.
We have received those greetings.
Yes.
And we reciprocate. Yes.
Ziende zirudi.
Tena zirudi kama zimeweka turbo.
Very good.
Yes.
Vile amesema.
Na zisiende Turbo peke yake.
No. Not the geographical location.
Not the place called Turbo.
Havana.
Kila mahali
na speedy.
Very good. Glad to be back. Hello everybody. Let me tell you what we'll be discussing today. So at 7 a.m. there is the community that was allocated a piece of land in Nairobi. Okay? This was the Nubian community. When they allocated this land in Kibra many years ago, it was a couple of families that were then given this land. Transfers didn't happen and all this and the other. But then many years later, they actually got the title deed for several hundred acres of land in Kibra, what we now know as Kibera. Now, the people, the Nubian community around Kibra has been having a back and forth conversation about now actual ownership and demarcation of this land. And now there's a whole government plan to put up affordable housing projects in where? Kibra. There's even a task force that has been established to actually look at how the Kibra Nubian community can benefit from this piece of land. The chairman of that task force on the operationalization of the redevelopment and affordable housing projects in Kibra is Dr. Ahmed Kalebi. He is Nubian. The Secretary General of the Kenya Nubian Council of Elders is Ibrahim Yunis. He is Nubian. Both those two gentlemen will be joining us at 7 a.m. to talk about why the Nubians are edgy over Kibra slum upgrading project. 7 a.m. At 8 o'clock, we have another conversation that's coming up, and this one is on the impact of devolution in the country. This time from the lens of the National Assembly. You know, when you talk about devolution, we talk about governors, MCAs, senators, but we forget that even the National Assembly has a big role that it plays in devolution.
Actually huge.
A big one.
Huge.
So Gladys Boschole is the Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly. She joins us at 8 a.m. for that conversation. And then at 9, let's talk about this affordable housing. Is it a reality or is it an illusion? Somebody who is a real estate professional and a land economist, Ekonyo Gitonga, joins us at what time? 9 a.m. Those are enough conversations, aren't they? Livestream is up on YouTube and Facebook.
Right.
Very, very good. Everybody who's online, let's know where you're tuned in from. Once Ndu gives us the weather forecast, we shall acknowledge your presence 18 minutes after 6.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Clear conditions in Nairobi at 12 degrees, highs of 26, and we'll see lows of 12 today. Lows of 13 and highs of 28 in Nakuru, and at 10 degrees, it's clear in Nyeri, highs of 25. 25 will also be the high in a clear Eldoret, which is chilly at 9 this morning. It's partly cloudy at 24 in Mombasa, highs of 30 and lows of 24. And we'll see lows of 24 in a partly cloudy Malindi, currently at 25, going to highs of 29. It's 18 and clear in Kisumu, highs of 31, and we'll see highs of 30 in a mostly clear Kakamega at 16. It's clear at 18 in Kampala, highs of 29, and we'll see highs of 29 as well in a partly cloudy Dar es Salaam at 24. It's 14 and cloudy in Johannesburg, highs of 27 and lows of 13. It's mostly clear at 25 in Lagos, highs of 30 today. 34 will be the high in a mostly clear Kinshasa at 22. And at 26, Monday afternoon, sunny in Beijing, highs of 31 and lows of 21. It's mostly cloudy at 19 in Paris, highs of 29 and lows of 17. We'll see highs of 26 and lows of 15 in a mostly cloudy London at 15. And at 25, Sunday night is clear in New York. Coming into Monday, we'll see highs of 30 and lows of 21.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
20 minutes
Nairobi.
after 6. Who's online?
Everybody's online this morning. Brian Otenyo is reminding us that it was Eric's birthday. Happy birthday. Belated birthday, Brian Otenyo. You are another year plus 1, 2, 3, 4 days.
Yes. Asante sana.
Still clocking.
Asante sana, Brian.
James Mukabana says, good morning. Tuned in from Udhiru. Looking forward to kickstart the new week with elevated conversations once more. Karibu sana. Tupac Shakur, he never dies, is awake this morning and says, Habari ya wananchi. Mukuri Dan says, says, a lovely day and good morning from London, Greenwich. You've got a fan for life. Hola, Asante sana. Now, Don Sabwa has been giving us lessons from Malawi. He says, in Malawi, welcome, we say takulandirani, which means we have received you. Now, Eric, takulandirani.
And then how do I respond?
And Ndu takulandirani. Siti, kindly answer back. Oi, Siti.
Say
Taku
Landirani.
Takulandirani.
Ndio hiyo sasa.
Yes.
We have received you.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Takulandirani means asante.
Now I'm confused.
Sure.
Anyway, Ziti should answer back. It also means asante. It means welcome and thank you. Okay.
Okay.
Julius Song says, good morning, Eric and CT, the best radio channel in Kenya. Santa Sana, we did turn 4 yesterday, so yay. Joel
yes.
B. From Kericho is tuned in and expecting to be locked to the end. Karibu Sana. George Biketi, tuned in from the shores of Lake Naivasha. Happy for an intellectual discourse. Happy belated birthday, Eric. Good morning, good people. We need someone who is neutral and objective to break down this university funding model for us. Dismas Ombea is interested in that. The 2000 says, good morning, Wakubo. How was your weekend? Well, it was all right. Dan says Ndu never goes on holiday. Huh? No, she doesn't.
Imagine Ndu. Yeah.
Very soon, just now. Fadil Ferouz says, good morning from Dubai. Good morning to you. Raphael Kingori tuned in from Narrow Morrow. Mohammed Rashid says, tuned in from Wajir, listening for the interviews. It's 11 degrees in Naivasha. Yes, it is. Fun stuff, isn't it? Yes, Brian reminding us that Spice turned 4 years old. Yes, we did, just the other day. Actually, just yesterday. James Sekento tuning in from Kerara Pond. Vushere Peeps, habari zenu. Hello Team Spice. Eriko Amirudi, happy birthday, everything. Welcome, happy birthday, yote, everything.
Kila kitu. Plus happy birthday to Spice.
To Spice, yes. Christopher Ochieng is tuned in. Penda Mani says, good morning from Massachusetts. Listening, ask the leaders hard questions. Yes. Paul Nzengu says, good morning. Quite a number of people online right about now. Kicking it with us this morning. Karibuni sana. Thank you.
Asante sana kila mtu. City. This week's Proverbs.
We are in the country of Burkina Faso.
Burkina Faso.
We've been there before. And we learned when we were here before that the people of Burkina Faso are called
Burkinabe.
Oddly enough, yes, that's exactly what they are called. That is exactly what they are called. We will go into the details of the capital, natural resources, president, leader, politics, coup d'etats, everything.
Izozote.
We'll go in the course as we move on in the course of the week.
Okay.
Proverb number 1. Today.
Yes.
Death is unable to speak to an ancestor.
Death is unable to speak to an ancestor. Death is unable to speak to an ancestor.
Yes.
He's already crossed over.
Yes, he's with death. In fact, he has left death because death is involved when that person is in the process of becoming an ancestor. Once they become an ancestor,
that's it. Wanamalizana.
No more death, and that death can't go around chatting to him again.
Wanamalizana.
And telling ancestor, I've come visiting again. That story is done.
Done and dusted.
Kabisa completely.
Alrighty. That's an interesting one. Let's hear what the guests will be making of it. Headlines
on the front page of the Standard this morning. Rejected degrees. New generation of students have totally rejected certain courses offered in public and private universities, despite government classifying the programs as vital for Kenya's development. Okay, we'll look at those. Spotlight on former CS in Joho firm tender deals. Everywhere is just jumping everywhere. Innovations in counties, hit or flop. Diaspora cash high on weak shilling. And retirees win a 12-year battle for 14 billion shillings. Mudavadi joins a probe into high power bills. Really? Which Mudavadi?
Musalia.
Now, the court has given pastors more power in Christian marriages. How, you ask? Judges says Registrar of Marriages has no powers to issue letters of no objection when couples choose to wed in church, and that only clergy conducting weddings can consider objections.
My friend, this has opened up
Pandora.
Not even Pandora. It's just unclogged. The clog that has been at the registrar.
All this time because of objections.
Yes. People want to get married. You have got to go to the registrar first. To get that. It's basically a consent. No objection.
You that okay.
Yes.
By the time they're saying in church, does anyone find anyone what? You have already received the paper from the registrar. And if you've not received the paper from the registrar, the church cannot wed you. Right?
Yeah.
So now, judge is saying, you know what? We'll allow the pastors to do it because you people are not serious.
What? Okay.
On the front page of The Nation, stolen dream, corruption, the noble vision of the framers of the Constitution to decentralize services to the people has been marred by instances of devolved graft, with billions of shillings that were intended for development diverted to line the pocket of county officials and well-connected individuals. Walala. Okay. Banks reject increase of cash deals to 2 million. They said, why are you people doing this kind of thing? It was under 1 million, and even that we're having a bit of a problem with. Now you're saying it's okay for people to have 2 million shillings in and out without documentation. What it's going to do is that it will increase avenues of corruption, and we don't want that. I don't know that they'll have much say beyond this, but okay. Ruto moves to counter Raila influence in the Gusii region. All right. The World Athletics Championships took off this weekend in Budapest. And there were some good moves, some disappointments, some big disappointments. Looking at it from a Kenya perspective, look into details of that. Simiyu bags silver as Omanyala misses out on podium position. And Cheptegei secures third world crown. Leals is the fastest. And that's looking at the 100 meters final. Noah Lyles actually won that race yesterday. And it's a good picture. Look at details of that as we go along.
Kubwa sio?
Yes.
Okay, the Business Daily. The state is to step back from Gulf fuel import scheme. Let me explain. Kenya will take a step back from the government-backed fuel import credit scheme negotiated with Gulf nations after those guys called the IMF expressed concern that taxpayers might be exposed to currency-related costs. Treasury CS Professor Jogona Dungo said the government would step back to allow private sector players, including the oil marketing companies, banks and credit insurance providers, to run the scheme. He, however, said the government has explained to the IMF staff who visited the country for reviews of credit and funding facilities that this scheme is a trade finance arrangement which had no risks to the Kenyan government. So now he's like, tumewajaribu kueleza waelewi. There is no end game to this review, because what we'll do now is the government will step back and allow the market to work on its own with those deferred LCs. These people just don't get it. Higher, the other headline, banks are opposing plans to raise large cash reporting threshold. Remember that thing the cabinet sat and said, okay, move it up to $115,000 USD. Banks are saying, hey, where? Commercial banks have opposed the plan by the government to raise the threshold for reporting large cash transactions by 50% to 15,000 USD. That's about 2.1 million shillings on today's exchange rate, on grounds that the move will open avenues for money laundering and terrorism financing in Kenya. President William Ruto's cabinet had approved the amendments to the law that will spare bank customers the trouble of disclosing the source, intended use and beneficiaries when making transactions of 15,000 and below. But appearing before a parliamentary committee conducting public participation on the amendment, the Kenya Bankers Association said increasing the threshold from the current 10,000 to 15,000 will put Kenya on the edge given its geopolitical location in the Horn of Africa. So they're saying retain this cash limit at 10,000 or equivalent in other currencies, as opposed to this 15,000 story that you people are coming up with. Here to Turkey. Ticker headlines. Inflation slows down VAT growth to softest pace in a decade. Court freezes sugar traders' accounts on KRA tax claim. And CBK rejects 33 billion bond bids in rate standoff. Bond investors demanded more than 18% in interest in the auction for a reopened 5-year bond. CBK was like, hi. The market is saying, you want us to lend you government? 18%.
If I'm coming, Mutaki,
18%.
To government.
What?
Wow.
By the way, when they lend to government, remember, that cost will be passed.
Of course.
Along, so to speak.
Way. Higher. Then there's a person in the news, interesting story on page 3 of the Business Daily. They are profiling Andrew Musangi, the lawyer who's juggled legal practice, boardroom and political roles, and is now the chairman of the Central Bank of Kenya. Higher City. Fanya namna hiyo.
Mimi iko kwa Star.
Na East African.
Right. Exit MONUSCO. The UN mission that has been in DRC for the last 25 years, as this article states, after a 25-year checkered history, meaning hapa na pale in Kiswahili, the UN warns that the security situation in the troubled East could worsen. It's already worse. Unless another mission steps in, really. The mission was there and it was worse. It had been worser, okay? But it reduced in terms of worseness. So it was bad. Now, 25 years down the line, this story on page 4 and 5 attempts to tell us what MONUSCO has done, what it hasn't been able to do, what it had hoped to do, what it might try to do in the future. etc., etc., etc. But while all this discussion is taking place and going on, Eastern DRC is still a troubled area. Quite as simple as that. Now, in the Star, top right-hand corner in Till Green, wild animals are feasting bodies buried at Langata Cemetery, MPs. The story is on page 7. Not resting in peace. It's an interesting story, this one. How it is that animals are able to dig graves, how deep it is that those graves were, and whether the bodies that are being eaten are the only bodies that are in that particular gravesite.
Yeah.
Yes, and the story goes on. On the side, Lavington elderly couple arrested over land dispute. Okay, this is a story that I think has done the rounds in the social media.
Yeah.
Yes, the Star attempts to tell that story and explain it. College student's body found after 10-day search. This is a young lady who jumped off a bridge to her death. This is in Kilifi. And she has been found after 10 days. Then bang in the middle of the paper, concern, audit reveals pads of poor quality that could easily fall off.
Huh?
What?
Let me repeat. Audit reveals pads of poor quality that could easily fall off.
Brake pads.
Brake pads, sanitary pads. What are we talking about?
Sanitary pads. Are education officials trading on girls' periods? That is the headline. So if I give that headline, then that sub makes sense, does it not?
Yeah.
Good golly.
Meaning, the market opened up. So it appears there are people
Everything
who...
flew in the door.
Yeah, they just, so long as it looks like it, doesn't have to be it. Yes.
But let's take a break. 26 minutes to 7. Do tell us about traffic.
We'll do.
Radio. And then we continue shortly.
This is the Situation Room. The only way to start
And now is when you
your
see a
day.
build-up on Jogo Road heading out towards Landis. Landis is starting to pack up as you get towards Kamkunji at the roundabout and then spilling over to Haile Selassie. There's some traffic coming off Gong Road. That looks like it's going to be pretty busy as you're getting into Monday morning. And coming off Fika Superhighway, we had not seen much earlier, but this is where we're seeing a build-up just past Survey. Heading out towards the Pangani Underpass, probably where you see the most of it, as usual. As you're coming off the northern bypass, then coming in through towards Cambu Road, we'll see some movements here and there. But again, nothing too messy. Out of Westlands, you'll be fine getting into the CBD. And if you're coming in then from Gong Road, Naivasha Road, heading out towards Lavington and then on to Zima Springs, James Gishore, all those good things, we will see some movement later. But now, not too bad. All right. Should be all right. Getting through towards 7 when traffic hour will likely get into full gear. Let's talk then. But before then, talk to us on Spice FM. KE on Twitter.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Story. Interestingly, because the last couple of days we've seen quite a lot in terms of news coming out of the family courts, marriage courts, and rulings that have been made. The most recent one we saw was that there's a bill now before Parliament that talks about if two individuals have gotten into the agreement of marriage and for some reason they feel as though their circumstances or differences that are irreconcilable, then you can speed up the process of dissolution of marriage.
Yes.
So this whole business of having to now go and seek for orders of divorce and etc., and do the long-winded thing for years out. Now, if this bill passes, it means that within a year, if you feel that this thing actually, we made a mistake or we were drunk, whatever.
You can get out of marriage within a year.
Yeah, you can say, you know what, it's okay. Let's just agree to disagree and do what? Leave. So some of these, a lot has been happening in the marriage courts, and we've seen just another one now. That a court has given pastors more say in Christian marriage. Couples who opt for Christian marriage or any other marriage other than the civil are not required to obtain a certificate confirming that they have existing marriage, according to the High Court. Justice Nyaundi Patricia Mande, in a judgment delivered on Friday, said that the certificate is only required in civil marriages under Section 32 of the Act. Civil marriage means the one that you go to. AG. All right. The judge noted that the Registrar of Marriages was acting outside their mandate. My goodness, that's a long time to have been acting outside your mandate, because it's been decades. Requiring couples who wed in church or by any other marriage to obtain a certificate. So by the time you're presenting yourself to church, you must have gotten this certificate from the registrar. Now, judge says registrar has been doing the business that nobody sent them to do. And what we'd like to do is now give these powers to pastors.
You know, this was the case until this 2014 law, when the Marriage Act was amended, and now they started bringing this whole story. Okay, because before, you just go and do your wedding. If it's church, they announce there, they put the notice, and you move.
This was all coming about because there was a couple. They had applied for this certificate. Their wedding was stopped after the Registrar of Marriages refused to authorize the celebration of the intended marriage. Now, according to the registrar, once you go to church, this is only a celebration of what we have allowed to happen. You understand?
Yes.
So now they couldn't do this because they refused to issue the certificate. The registrar had notified them that they could not proceed with the marriage and directed the groom to file a divorce suit and obtain a decree, noting that he was in a previous marriage for 10 years under a customary marriage between 2001 and 2011, and blessed with one child in his previous marriage. So according to them, Omo, you're still married to this other person, and we have not given you the certificate to go ahead. Became a whole hullabaloo and a fracas back and forth. So judge said, you know what? Moving forward, you people have no business. If they're going to go to church to get married, let the pastor be the one to say whether we are going to allow you to do or not, after having done due diligence. Now, it is up to you to decide what due diligence is. But from now, moving on, henceforth, registrar, do the one that they sent you, civil marriage. After that, you're done.
Do?
Yes, sir.
You're a wonderful testimony of education.
Thank you very much,
Good
sir.
education. Glory be to your parents.
Amen.
The word,
Engineer and Mrs.
like some of
Okoh.
the other words you've been teaching me. Me, I've known how long it's called fracas. Now you, today, you've told it's called fracas. That's why I'm smiling and beaming so loudly. So, in fracas. All my fellow fracans. It's called fracas.
Analytic fracas.
See, fracas. You analytic fracas mingi. Analytic fracas. And the S doesn't mean the plural. Inalikuwa gatu hivyo ikiwa singular.
Mingi fracas.
I thought you had a problem with this marriage.
No. You know something, huh? Bless you, brother, bless you. Every once in a while, every decade or so, changes have to be made. See, these are generational changes. People come in, they look at this marriage thing and they're thinking, these things are not really working well. Because when you have a law, at some level, laws are aspirational. You know, it's not as though we've all attained them. We're always trying to live by them. And that applies to this case.
Indeed.
So if one finds that certain things that have been enforced are not working, surely you must look at them again and say, how else should it work?
Actually, there have been very many complaints. Very many complaints. And you hear, so in many cases, you hear of people who maybe have decided to come back into the country and they just wanted to get married. So you've met abroad, you've come back into the country, you want to hold, just go through the whole motion, going to the girl's place, to the boy's place, then you go to church and you want to hold a marriage. In the case that is being quoted in this story, the registrar had told the guy, wait, boss, you've been married to somebody else before. And you have a child. Okay? And what we see here is that you are married customarily. We recognize 3 types of marriage: customary, religious, civil. Now, can you first of all go and dissolve that customary marriage before you go into this religious marriage with this other new woman? The guy went to court.
Because just because you did not marry in church does not mean that the other customary marriage does not hold.
Or that it's a lesser.
Or that it's a lesser
form of
marriage.
marriage. Yes, and can be
So-
subsumed by these others.
So registrar said, you go.
But you see, the point is, the registrar does not have to do this.
No.
Once, if the church can do it,
Exactly. Because the church
put notice, give 2 weeks notice, 2 weeks notice or something, and
When they
even
publish
before the
their
pastor,
bans,
and the pastor says,
Yeah.
if there's anyone
Yes.
who has an issue. So there are all these steps that have been taken.
But I think we must be careful to note, it doesn't mean that the pastor would not do the same thing. It is very possible that the pastor would also say, excuse me, because of 1, 2, 3, you cannot
Somebody
marry.
has come to this church
Eh,
and said that you are also married.
Yes.
And so I cannot.
But what we're saying is, since you want to marry in church, let the custodian of the church be the one to make that decision, not you, who is the custodian of civil marriages. Yeah.
It's a big one.
Yeah, it is.
So that story in the Star City about what we saw in the news yesterday, social media yesterday. Police have entered a certain compound in Lavington and they've arrested an elderly man and they've gone with him and there's somebody else who's come with people who have started planting.
Then they quickly pick up
erecting a
everything.
fence.
They have already come with
Chop, chop.
shovels, kill like
20.
Then they're sorting out quickly.
People are already hammering things. I'm like,
There's a fence that's been put up. Gafla bin Vu.
if Gafla bin Vu needed a picture,
That is it. You saw it. And of course, everything that was happening on social media was like, oh my goodness, we have seen these things happen. The Asian community in this country is suffering, because people are coming and stealing land from them and this and the other. People who are unscrupulous. A statement was released by Nicholas Kamwende, who's the deputy boss of the DCI, and he made sure that he writes it in long prose. He's like, this one I'm going to explain to you step by
Exactly
step.
what is happening.
Step by step.
By
He said
step.
a complaint was made in February this year by one man called Munir Ahmed Chodria, who is 75-year-old. He is a Kenyan citizen, but he lives in the UK. In his letter, he says he is the registered owner of this parcel of land, 209771/2, located in Lavington. He is also said that one Mahesh Kumar Bhatti and Anita Bhatti are laying claim of the same land. So, long and short, this is a story about, on the one hand, somebody called Munir Ahmed Chaudhry, who lives in the UK, and Munir's partner, who is the late Malkiat Singh, who's now represented by his widow. So Munir and Malkiat Singh bought this piece of land in Lavington in the 70s. Okay? They don't do anything with it. They lease it to a company called TMAM Construction. You've seen TMAM Construction?
We've seen them.
TMAM Construction's director and one of the shareholders is this Mahesh Kumar Bhatti. In the 80s, they seek subdivision of that big piece of land. They go to City Hall, they get subdivision, they are allowed to subdivide it. So now that one land becomes two parcels of land. One of the parcels of land they sell to TMAM. Okay? TMAM under Mr. Bhatti. The other piece of land is theirs. But then because they're not in Kenya, they tell Mr. Bhatti, do this, why don't you put a fence covering both our pieces of land? Man agrees. He builds a house on his own. Bhatti now of TMAM builds a house on his side of the parcel.
However,
and the other one becomes his compound where he can entertain and whatever.
Things.
Yeah, but it doesn't develop it. Mr. Kumar has been coming, Malkiat Singh, they've been coming and gaining access to this piece of land, until a couple of years ago when they came on the road. Where are you going? Say, to see our land. Which land? They went to the DCI and said, my friend, we have been denied entry into our land, our piece of land. Also, at this juncture, this Mr. Munar Kumar of the UK, has met a friend in Kenya who is, let me look for his name. He has a name.
Don't worry, it'll appear. These things have a tendency of appearing when you need them.
Yeah. It's called Bashir Abdul Rahman.
See? Told you it would appear.
Mr. Bashir Abdul Rahman has met with Mr. Munir and the widow of Malkiat Singh. And they've decided, let's enter into a joint venture So where we do some development on our piece of land. We, the Kumar and Malkiat Singh family, will donate the land to you, Abdul. You, Abdul, put the development. Okay? So that's when they were going to the DCI, because now they have been denied access into this piece of land. So now that was the whole story.
But I have a question.
Ask.
This house that was built on one of the two, when it was being built,
yes,
was approval sought now that we are just looking at this land for you? Can I put up a house in the meantime?
You see, that house was put on that TMAM's land.
It is their own legally.
TMAM, once they subdivided this land,
it became theirs.
TMAM bought that piece.
Yes.
It is stroke 2.
It is theirs.
So
stroke
this
1
side
is the one that is left for Munir. It used to be one piece of land. Now it has been divided into stroke 1, stroke 2.
Yeah.
So TMAM have bought stroke 2.
Now,
and they've put up their house.
Who denied these other? Who denied?
TMAM is on who's been living here
and has denied them entry.
Has denied
to
the big, the original owner, who's also now owner of the other half, entry.
Garrett.
That is what, according to the DCI, who says this matter we've even folded the file to the DPP, and the DPP has said take it up.
If you want to build a fence quickly, this thing of you 1 month, look for those guys.
Look for
10 minutes.
My friend, fence comes up. By the time you say,
imagine
there's a fence.
As in somebody said, what's happening? Bah, bah. Before you finish saying happening, I said, amazing.
Hey,
only in Kenya,
my friend. And how they just entered, voo, kidogo, oh, you've been arrested. By the time you're getting into the Land Cruiser, fence is up.
Yes, that the arrest usually is just to help you with orientation.
Yeah, by the time you
when you get to the
DCI,
you'll find your thinking has been reshaped
completely.
Then when they speak to you, you'll find your hearing is even sharper.
Yeah.
Either that or it's completely clogged. You can't hear a thing. But you know, this is a story that if one were to follow, you would find remnants, if not bucketfuls of such stories in a place like the coast.
Yes.
Because the coast now has absentee landlords.
Yes.
Many.
Yes.
And over the years, lawyers who are given the mandate to look after these properties, the office of government that deals with these properties, God alone knows what has been happening with those things. There are many. There are very, very many such stories.
Absentee landlord, kidogo, somebody has been given, the thing of holding it in trust for you.
That's it.
Bas. That trustee
it's very interesting.
Loses trust.
Yeah. Loses trust. CT, you said something last week about, the police or DC are not just going to wake up one morning and think, okay, we're a bit bored. How about we go and arrest somebody, The assumption is that they would have done their due diligence before having to go out on an operation such as this. Because look, when we started reading the thing online yesterday and started seeing the pictures and then started to get a little bit of information, the initial reaction was, oh my God, how can you do this to another individual?
Yeah.
Why would you just walk into the house and arrest somebody on a random Saturday? Why would you do that without now getting a little bit more of
there could
be a reason why
another
this is
side
happening,
to this story,
But the initial reaction is people are being targeted. How do you arrest an old man? How do you walk into their compound and just take
corrupt DCI?
It
Actually,
all played out.
DCI tend to know exactly what
they're doing. Yeah, it would appear. Yeah,
and they are not going to arrest you if they don't have a good reason. Now you may dispute the reason, but they do. Now, the problem is, even as I make this statement, then those who will ask, oh yeah, but there are all these arrests that get to court. Then the court says there's insufficient evidence.
There was nothing.
Now, that's a different story.
But I mean, the initial to now find out exactly what's going on, because they are an investigative body. To do this,
See,
they have to find out what's going on.
The different story is that when the matter goes to court, there's a hiatus, there's something in between here. Something happens. Yes. Because in my mind, when the people are first arrested, there's a...
The story is aligned.
Yes, it's aligned. Then between this one, okay, there's bond. That between bond, you out, going to court.
Something happens.
Something happens.
Misalignment takes place. City, tell us that story.
Which particular one do you want me to tell you?
The one of Sri Pad doing what? Is that the one you want to tell us?
Actually,
or do you want to tell us?
The one I want to tell you,
okay.
That one I read, just so that people can know such a story exists. The one I want to tell you is actually derived from a column that has been written by a gentleman by the name of Abu Ayman. Okay, it's this simple matter.
Abu Ayman.
Yes.
Abu Ayman.
He's a member
like a
of the Jamia Mosque Committee.
Sounds like a pseudonym.
Is his name Abu? Ayman. Whether his full name is Abu Bakr, I don't know. Whether it's
because I'm thinking, I've heard Abu Ayman al-Zawahri. Abu Ayman is like Abu Ayman something.
I'm sure, but for purposes of writing, that's what refers to him. And he's a member of the Jamia Mosque Committee. His article deals with what he refers to as discrimination among Muslims, especially when they want to procure a passport. Let me just read the byline so that you understand. While for others, a baptismal certificate could be acceptable to apply for national ID, for Muslims, additional documents, which include grandparents' birth certificates, are required. It says Muslims' painful quest to get an ID or a passport. It says in 2007, something very, very interesting happened. A vetting policy was enacted, and a confidential circular issued to the district commissioners by the registrar of persons requiring Muslim applicants to undergo vetting, as well as providing additional documents such as birth certificates of grandparents. In some cases, applicants are required to also present documents which include title deeds to vetting committees or proof of citizenship. It doesn't stop there. They say it goes even further, that the National Intelligence Services are required to be in that panel, the Immigration Department, Civil Registration Department, to prove their citizenship. That even infants are required to be physically present to the vetting committee to prove their Kenyan citizenship before being issued with passports. This is what he writes. Okay, now my mind has to go back to 2007. What was happening in 2007? Let's go even further back. When did we have the bomb attack on the U.S. embassy?
88.
Yes, exactly.
98.
It's 98. There are many things that happen that, in the absence of hindsight and of history, it will look as blatant. But even before the bomb attack in 1998, Muslims will tell you, that, and I'm talking about, you were required to have more than one ID, especially if you are Kenyan of Somali origin. Forget this national ID. You have to have another identification. So the question then one asks is, why is it? Because it looks like it's discrimination.
Yeah.
I'm going to pause that story there. We are going to look for the people who issue these things so that they can come and explain to us in great detail how this thing is worked out and the thinking behind it.
How else can it be done to make sure that the genuine applicants don't have to go through these loops?
Yes.
Because and hoops. Because you see this, you hear about these cases everywhere.
You do.
But then if you go into some places, for example, in the northeastern counties, so people will get IDs while in school. In fact, if you read the Defense CS's book, he'll talk about how he got his ID while he was in school. He's younger than his ID says, because he had to make sure that he gets his ID before he leaves high school, because thereafter it's going to be impossible. So in school, there's a headmaster who can confirm. There are people who can confirm that this child has been in this school, this child is Kenyan.
They are the documents you actually have to present to a school even as you register.
Yes. So it's easier for school children.
Yes.
Outside of school, now it becomes completely difficult to actually now say, okay, so who's this? Because we don't trust our own people. We don't trust our chief not to be corrupt, to actually bring in aliens and say, we're in Kenya.
Tena Mkenya sana.
So that's where the problems come in. How do they address those issues? How do we start to actually trust the chief?
And what does it
the office of government?
What does it also tell us about the offices of civil registration or the offices of immigration that issue passports? Because for this sort of vetting to have been declared as such, there's something they know that the rest of us may not know.
Yeah.
Something that happened or is happening that the rest of us do not know.
Yeah.
So if it is perhaps a good thing for them to actually come and talk about it, but more importantly, to find a way of easing the pressure and the pain from people who are genuinely Kenyan. Because essentially this looks like you're being discriminated against because of your faith.
Indeed. That's what it looks like.
And that goes contrary to our constitution.
Yeah.
Completely contrary.
Yeah.
Yes.
But is it Muslim or is it Somali?
According to his article, it is Muslim. According to his, but the complaints that I have come across have been Kenyans who are of Somali origin. That is where I have heard. Because I've not heard this complaint from Kenyans who are Muslims, but either of Yemeni origin, Arabic origin, Swahili. I have not heard this. Well, if no, I haven't. I clearly haven't. Still quite simple. But that I haven't. I am not the begin and end all of understanding this. That is just a narrow view of me not having heard. It doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
There's a story which is the big headline in the Standard today. Rejected degrees. New generation of students have totally rejected certain courses offered in public and private universities, despite the government classifying these programs as vital for Kenya's development. And the Standard then analyzes the way students have actually picked courses. So of the students who scored A in KCSE, a majority of the A students have chosen medicine and surgery as their degree of choice. And then there are those who've gone for pharmacy. And then there is computer science as the third most preferred for the A students. Architecture, civil engineering, electronic engineering, dental surgery, nursing, clinical medicine, and aeronautical engineering. Then there are courses, 18 courses, where only one student applied. 18 of them. For example, BSc in horticulture, only one student applied. BSc in biological sciences, BSc in food security, Bachelor of Industrial Technology, Bachelor of Business Leadership, BSc in dryland agriculture, BSc forestry, BSc soil science, BSc library and knowledge management, BSc graphics and mineralogy, no, not graphics, geophysics and mineralogy. BSc Water Resources and Environment Management, BSc Environmental Chemistry. If you look at all those BScs, there's things to do with environment, climate, and agriculture. Things that are crucial in Kenya. But students are like, why am I going to do forestry? Why am I applying for food security to learn about horticulture? Why am I applying to learn about biological sciences or geophysics and mineralogy? So they're not attracting people. Why?
There's a connect.
Comes in. Good morning, 7 a.m.
Spice up your life.
Good morning, this is Newtime. I'm Dennis Aseto. Indonesian President Joko Widodo is in the country for a 2-day state visit where various business issues will be discussed and agreements signed. Widodo touched down at the JKIA yesterday and was received by Foreign Affairs Cabinet Secretary Alfred Mutua. Widodo and his host, President William Ruto, are expected to launch a cooking oil dispenser units in Dagoretti. Kenya and Indonesia will also sign bilateral agreements on the development of cooking oil production plant. Here is Trade CS Moses Kuria.
You've had Indonesia stopped exporting raw minerals a long time ago, and their GDP has risen tremendously. So that is really what we want to replicate here. On our minerals, on our agriculture, through our agriculture consolidation and aggregation and value addition and agro processing. We will learn from Indonesia on how to do that.
Kimani Ichung'wah, the majority leader of the National Assembly, has defended U.S. Ambassador Meg Whitman, claiming there is nothing neo-colonialist about discussing the outcome of the 2022 presidential election. Speaking in Kisii, Ichung'wah described opposition leader Raila Odinga's remarks as unfortunate, emphasizing there was nothing wrong when Whitman spoke about foreign investment and Kenya's political climate.
We have seen a very unfortunate incident where leaders are lecturing our diplomatic community. And it is sad when leaders who hold offices, leading parties in our country, lecture our diplomatic community on the basis of issues that they know are true. There is nothing neo-colonialist with an ambassador of a friendly nation speaking not just for her country, but also speaking for the host country where she's serving her country. There is absolutely nothing neo-colonialist about an ambassador speaking to her investors back in the country where they come from to come and invest in our country here.
He was referring to the opposition's criticism of Ambassador Whitman after she gave the 2022 general election a clean bill of health. He went on to say that Whitman's comments on investments could lead to more foreign investment in the country and that foreign investment could lead to more job creation.
It is those investors from the United States who will come together with those from China and other countries who will come and invest in this country and create job opportunities for our young people. All our friends, even in the diplomatic community, do not be discouraged by the naysayers. Be encouraged that many Kenyans appreciate the friendship of your countries. They appreciate your friendship as ambassadors and heads of mission who are serving our country, who are serving in our country, representing your country's interests. But we feel fortunate that you can also take time to advance the interests of our own country and our economy in your bigger economies for the prosperity and for the betterment of the lives of our people.
Azimio leaders are now claiming that their Kenya Kwanza counterparts, especially from Mount Kenya region, have neglected their responsibility of fighting for the rights of the residents. Led by Nak Kenya Party leader Martha Karua, they have accused the leaders of not ensuring that their regions get enough resources, promising to continue pressuring the government to distribute resources equally. According to Karua, the leaders have been pressured by the government not to discuss the issue. Karua has also criticized the new education funding system for tertiary institutions, claiming that the system will discriminate against some students. Jubilee Secretary General Jeremiah Kioni says that the new system will leave out many students and make education even more expensive in the country.
Wale ambao wako uongozini, sisi ambao unatuona hapa, it is the first generation of leaders ambao wamefunzwa na Ron hapa Kenya. And it is very unfair ati ya kwamba tunaweza kuwa sisi are the first generation alafu tuwanyime vizazi zetu nafasi kama ile. You can never help a country if you make education unaffordable. The starting point, elimu, lazima kila mtu aweze kwenda shule. Na ndio tulikuwa tunasema pale beleni, yetu ilikuwa kuhakikisha kwamba elimu ni bure kwa kila sehemu, from primary school to secondary school, university.
Kisumu County Governor Peter Anyang' Nyong'o has condemned the killing of 2 people along the Kisumu-Kericho County border and expressed disappointment with the Ministry of Interior's reaction. Governor Nyong'o described the government's lack of action as unfortunate, despite reports that tension between the two communities on the common border began to rise 3 days ago. Nyong'o says the national government must have received intelligence reports about the looming fights and could have nipped it in the bud. This is News. I'm Dennis Hassada. Good morning.
Spice FM, Nakuru.
All right, busy movement, 5 after 7, and we're looking at it heavy this Monday morning. Let's look at the Thika Superhighway. A little bit of traffic building up, and then it becomes quite some as you get towards the Pangani underpass, heavy as you're trying to get then into the CBD. We'll see some movement also at that Outer Ring Junction, but again, nothing too crazy. Schools are still closed. It's interesting, the significance of schools reopening on traffic, or rather the impact on traffic in many parts of the city. Not much happening on North Airport Road going out towards the Outer Ring Junction and then the Eastern Bypass. Southern Bypass is looking pretty good. Most of your movements will be into the CBD from all directions this morning. We'll take a look at what happens as we get closer towards traffic hour. Let's talk on Spice FM KE on Twitter and keep things moving this morning.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the
7 minutes after 7. How are you doing? This is Kenya's biggest conversation. This is the Situation Room on Spice FM, which is celebrating 4 years from yesterday. This whole week, it's our birthday.
Yes, it is.
And everybody's got to recognize that. Thank you very much, everybody who supported us and tuned in to Spice FM for the last 4 years. We've been on air now for 4 years on this show. Spice FM has been on air for 4 years. City, not a small thing, huh?
It is no small feat, but it wouldn't have been.
You can now go to kindergarten.
Yep. Umri umefika.
At 4 years.
At 4 years, you can now go to kindergarten because your hand can go around your head and touch your ears.
Bas.
So we hope.
So we hope. Welcome, everybody. If you're tuned in on Spice FM, or if you're joining us on KTN Home, those who are joining us online on YouTube and Facebook, Karibu Sana. We'll also tell you about what's happening this weekend, the 26th of August. Something big is happening.
Yes.
What is this?
We are going west.
West.
Yeah. We're going to Nakuru County, and you know what's happening? It's Choma na Nini City.
Ngoma.
Choma na Ngoma happens outside of Nairobi for the first time. So it's a product, it's an event. It's music, it's partying, it's food. And it's usually in Nairobi, and it's under the umbrella of Radio Maisha. But this time we're saying, you know what? Let's have some of the greatest talent come out for a night of Choma na Ngoma. And it's happening at the Rift Valley Sports Club this year. And it's 800 shillings. www.ticketsasa.com is where you can get your tickets. And it's going to be great. Otile Brown. If for Otile Brown alone, Ndu will go to Nakuru.
Otile Brown.
Ndu will go to Nakuru.
Bas.
So you can imagine them and many more out for Choma na Ngoma this year.
For me, it's the OG himself, Calligraph Jones, is going to be there. Why, my friend? Nadia Mukami is going to be there, and others. City for you? Otile Brown.
Well, let me go with what the two of you are going with.
Those like City who may not make it to Nakuru, Automac is having an open day this weekend here on Popo Road, South Sea, near Bellevue. Automac, which is a subsidiary of CFAO, which was previously known as what? Automac? Toyotsu
Motors.
Yes, they sell, what do you call those vehicles? Pre-owned vehicles.
Yes.
Yep. So they're having an open day, and they have all these pre-owned vehicles. Their checklist is mileage and service history, braking systems, exterior, interior appearance, and engine compartment, transmission, tire condition, battery system, lighting system, accessories, audio alarm systems. Take your vehicle there. They will do those checks for you. Also go there, and if you're looking for a new vehicle, my friend, just go. A pre-owned vehicle. You know, in Kenya, new is as long as you're driving it for the first time and owning it for the first time. Akona gari mpya jamaa.
Number plate is new.
Ni KD.
Ni KD.
That's all that matters.
That's it. That's all that matters. All right. Let's have a conversation now about the Nubian community in Kenya, in Kibra constituency. So Nubians have been in this country for many years, and there's a community that has been living in this country for many years. This community now has claim and legitimate claim to piece of land for a number of years, and now there's a government plan to put up affordable housing and upgrade the Kibra slum for a couple of years. Issues have arisen out of this. The Secretary General of the Kenya Nubian Council of Elders is called Ibrahim Yunis. He's with us in the studio. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation.
I'm happy to be here.
Karibu. Yeah. Dr. Ahmed Kalebi is the chairman of a task force on the operationalization of the redevelopment of an affordable housing project in the same area. Dr. Kalebi, good morning.
Morning.
Good to have you on the show.
Good to be here too.
Welcome to the hot seat of the Situation Room.
Very nice to be here and ready for the conversation.
Very good. To begin this conversation, let's go to Burkina Faso. City Muga has the day's proverb from that country.
Yes, the whole of this week our proverbs will be from the country of Burkina Faso. It used to be called Upper Volta from around 1958 to 1984. But it's now called Burkina Faso. I will tell you why it's called Burkina Faso in due course. But for the proverb, death is unable to speak to an ancestor.
Death is unable to speak to an ancestor.
Mm-hmm.
Ibrahim Yunus is thinking really hard about this one. Dr. Kalebi is thinking very hard about this one.
I think tired.
Okay. What's your interpretation of this, Dr. Kalebi?
Death is in the land of the living. The ancestors are already gone. So you don't speak to where you are not. That's how I'm looking at it.
Right. Okay.
Put it well, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Death is in the land of the living.
Ancestors are not.
No, they are not. No.
Ibrahim, what do you think?
I concur with Dr.
Same.
Same.
So what do you think the Burkinabe are saying with this proverb? What's the lesson here?
I want to relate this to the Nubian community.
Yes.
You see, our ancestors came here 130 years ago. We are here, the fourth generation. So, going by what Dr. Kalebi has said, that our ancestors and ourselves who are here now, there's no communication.
There's no communication. You deal with your own realities of today.
Yes, absolutely.
Their realities are different.
Yes.
Yours is yours now.
Yes.
Okay. Picking up from there, 130 years ago, this Nubian community came into this country.
Not into this country. 130 years ago in Nairobi. Actually,
in Nairobi.
Into the country is about 160 years ago.
So give us the history of the Nubian community then, Ibrahim.
We trace our ancestry. First, I want to define Nubian is a collection of tribes.
Okay.
It's not one tribe. About 20 or so tribes. We trace our ancestry from southern Egypt and Sudan. You recall that in history, the Anglo-Egyptians used to rule Sudan. So they used to come to Sudan to recruit slave soldiers, black slave soldiers. The word Nubi refers to a black slave soldier. So they used to recruit them into the Egyptian army, and then thereafter they were brought to East Africa. We, the Nubians of Kenya, came through Uganda, and there's a group that came through Somalia. So we came to Kenya 160 years ago, basically to come and serve the British in the King African Rifles to fight in the First and Second World War. After the war was over, the Nubians wanted to go back to Sudan and Egypt, but the British told them, no. You stick around, something might crop up.
We might need you.
We might need you. So to induce them to remain, they allocated them 4,197.9 acres of land. In Nairobi.
4,197.9 acres.
This land stretches from Langata Road, Mbagathi Road, Ngong Road, up to the War Memorial Cemetery. All the land in between is Nubian land. It was surveyed in 1917.
Let's say again. We start from Mbagathi.
Yes.
And then we have
Museum, City Mortuary.
City Mortuary.
Yes.
We have Ngong Road on this side.
Yes.
We've got Langata Road on this side.
Kaski Mall.
Yes.
We go all the way.
Yes.
Cemetery.
Up to the cemetery.
Up to the cemetery. All the land in between.
All the way to Langata Cemetery.
Yes.
Yes.
The War Memorial,
Cemetery.
On Langata Road.
On Ngong Road. Yes.
And then you go this way up to Roland Camp.
Yes.
Connect to Langata Road back.
So showground is within your property.
Showground is the border.
Is the border.
Yes.
So this other whole area we call Jamhuri and the rest is all
Nubian land.
Jamhuri was called Sarangombe. That's why they used to graze their cattle.
So who surveyed this land and gave it over to the Nubian?
The colonial government surveyed the land in 1917.
Right.
And in 1918, it was gazetted as a military reserve
For the Nubian soldiers.
For the Nubian soldiers and their families. And they were issued with shamba passes.
396 families.
393 families. They were given land ranging from 10 acres to 20 acres per family.
Okay.
By families, what do we mean? Because there's a person who came to fight. That soldier is the one that we recognize.
Yes.
The 396 soldiers.
Yes.
And their families.
Yes.
Okay.
Because remember, they came from southern Egypt, northern Sudan. Actually, they were accompanying these guys. Remember, there was the Imperial British East African Company.
Yes.
And they will accompany them. And wherever they'll have garrisons, they'll settle. So there are garrisons in places like Bombo in Uganda. But let's talk about Kenya. So that's why you have Nubians in Mumias.
Yes.
All the way to Mazeras.
Yes.
In Mombasa. You have in Meru. Kakamega, Nyeri, wherever the soldiers were. But the biggest group, the biggest garrison was in Nairobi. So in 1917, they were issued with the land. It was gazetted in 1934 after being surveyed.
Okay.
Yes.
1934.
1934.
Right.
And that's why the names of those particular Shamba Pass owners were there. Just the same way the Indians and the Muzungus who are here for whatever reason were also given titles and the rest.
Okay.
But we didn't get the titles. We only got Shamba Passes, of course, being blacks.
So what does a shamba parcel mean?
Thank you.
When you have a shamba parcel, what do you have? Do you have a piece of documentation?
Pass, P-A-S-S.
Oh, a pass.
Yes. So the Shamba Pass, you remember it was the natives of that time. So most people were expelled out of Nairobi. But the Nubians were among the few blacks who were allowed to stay within Nairobi.
Yep.
But you had to be given a pass. And for them, they were given a Shamba Pass. So it's actually the document.
That's all right. So it's a document that is still available to date?
Yes.
Okay. So this document then, after they were awarded these Shamba passes, the families began to live and to work and to operate.
They were already living in it. The gazetteman then allowed them to actually have a piece of document that gave them the recognition. Yes.
Okay. So from 1934, then it was recognized by the government.
Yes. Of the day. Yes.
What happened when then Kenya gained its independence some 30 years later?
Could you please pause? I need to understand something. What did this pass entitle you to?
The pass entitled the soldiers of the time and the families to live in the land, cultivate it, graze, because mainly they're farmers, and basically cohabit in the area. Yes.
Was there time limitation to this
No,
pass?
there's no time limitation. It's just basically like they can be issued under
a freehold.
Basically, yes.
Was there any other community given such a pass?
So you remember what happened with the colonial government? There was reserves. So you'll have
African reserves.
African reserves. So it was the equivalent of the Nubian reserve. That's why when people say Ushago yetu ni huku, for the Nubians Ushago yetu ni Kibra. Yes. For the Nubians in Kibra, Ushago is Kibra. And people find that's very strange because how can Ushago be in town?
Sure.
Yes.
All right. Independence.
Thank you very much. Now, some 30 years later, Kenya gains independence, remembering that these Shamba passes had been awarded to the community under the colonial government.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
So, did any of this change then when a Kenyan government then came into place?
Actually, things started changing even before then.
How so?
So there was a Carter Commission. I can't remember which exact year.
Carter Commission report of 1934.
1934 as well. Around the same time.
Carter, C-A-R-T-E-R.
Yes, Carter. One of the Muzungus then.
Yes.
So he was supposed to do some survey, and then they had this Nairobi plan, urban metropolitan plan or something of that sort. And in the process, then they said, places like, on Jamhuri Park, Ngumo, and all these developments that happened on Ngong Road was part of what the government wanted to do, the government of the day.
Yep.
So the Nubians will be told, move from here, we want to develop this place. And they're like, but we have a Shamba Pass. No, this is what the government wants to do. So they kept being reduced until they ended up with only 700 acres, which became a slum, because they did not have proper land tenure. When the government of the day came in power, actually before the government of the day came into power, people like Jomo Kenyatta, they actually used to seek refuge in, and the Mau Mau, they used to seek refuge in Kibra, because it was like sort of like an enclave which was fairly safe, because the soldiers of the day, the other soldiers of the day will not come to Kibra. So they used to be hidden there. In fact, there's a place called Nyumba Kubwa, it's very historical. Now, when the government of the day came, these are very unfortunate but comical scenario or story. The president, recognizing the Nubians, actually invited them to State House. But being the arrogant soldiers, and I use the word arrogant affectionately for my people, we can be fairly arrogant. They said, why should we go to State House? This guy we have been hosting him here. He should come to us. We're not going to go to State House. And you're supposed to give them the title. So they never got the title. And then they also had this other notion. They said land is communal. Although they had the Shamba passes, but land was communal. And they used to say in Arabic or Nubian, Ardi is Ardullah. Land belongs to God. You don't say this land is mine. So it was communal land according to them. And that's the beginning of a lot of problems that we have until today.
To add to what Dr. Arya said, the Carter Commission reaffirmed the Nubian ownership of 4197.9 acres and also made a further recommendation that should there be need to relocate the Nubians, they should be compensated.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, let's look at some, in internal housekeeping. So we see this struggle. It's happening. The now established Kenya government after 1963 starts to say we need to develop. We're building. Nairobi, it's building. It's getting bigger. How were members of the community bequeathing land to generation? Because now we're talking about father leaving land to the son. We had not looked at daughters getting land at that time at all, right? So how were fathers leaving land? How were people developing there? How were people burying? How were people farming? How are people doing things that would normally happen on community land?
So basically, we had different villages based on the ancestral lines that they came from of these sub-tribes. So we have places like Kambi Aluru, Kambi Muru, Kambi Lendu. Kambi means a camp. And so this is a camp of the Aluru sub-tribe, camp of the Muru sub-tribe. And they'll be farming and living in those sort of areas. But what will happen is that as the government, let's say a typical example, Langata. So as Langata was being developed, the Nubians who are in Langata, they'll literally be evicted. You'll just be told, get out of here. We are developing this place. You'll be told to come back. And when they are supposed to come back in the developed areas, they'll be told, pay a deposit. And the guys don't have the money. They cannot even raise the deposit. And as a result, and corruption, you find the people who are in the civil service, people of the day, were the ones who took the land. The same thing happened in places like Ayani. And I can tell you, Ayani is a very traumatic name to a lot of the Nubians of a certain generation. They don't even hear that name because they came and built a place there and evicted the people and they gave it their name. The place was supposed to be called Lomle. So you can imagine the disenfranchisement of the Nubians. And because the government of the day, until almost today, so to speak, we never had official recognition. So what will happen, they'll be told, you can't argue. If you argue, tunakurudisha kwenyu. And that is the beginning of problems that we have until now.
At this point in 1934, let's even start from 1917 into 1918 into 30s.
Yes.
When the colonial government is acknowledging the presence of this Nubian community and even allocating them land, are they not doing anything to recognize them as Kenyans? Were they making any attempt to actually acknowledge them as Kenyans?
Actually, as Kenya was gaining independence, something profound was happening. You see, we had military commanders and we had colonial administrators. The military administrators valued the Nubians very much. But as Kenya, as we were approaching independence, there was a transition whereby now administering the protectorate was under the colonial administrators. The Wazungus who came like DOs and chiefs and DCs. These ones did not value the Nubians community. And our theory, this is a theory, we believe that the British did not secure our land rights and other rights because of our small number. They believed that we would disappear among the local communities.
You'd be assimilated.
Yes.
Over time.
Yes, over time.
And it happened in other places. It happened in places like Meru, it happened in places like Kisii.
Yes.
The Nubians actually literally got assimilated and almost disappeared.
Yes.
But, the proud Nubian nation is retained in Kibra. It's still our capital city, so to speak.
How come they did not get assimilated in Nairobi?
In Nairobi, because remember Nairobi by nature,
there were no natives.
There are no natives. And as then, what will happen as Nairobi was being developed, the reason why Kibra became a slum, Nairobi, the Nubians were very, very accommodative. And Kibra was a fairly safe place. In fact, I would say a lot of the people who came during the rural-urban migration of the late 70s and early 80s, most people, Kibra was their first landing point. And as a result, we never really got assimilated, but we welcome people and we integrated with them.
You accommodated.
And we accommodated them. And there's a lot of intermarriage and so on and so forth, but we still retain our identity as the Nubians. Yes.
Ibrahim.
Yes.
You're fourth generation.
Yes.
No. He's fourth generation.
I'm fifth.
You're
He's
fifth. So you're fourth generation
Yes, I'm
Nubian.
fourth generation.
So the first generation Nubians were doing what you told us. They were farming.
No, they were the soldiers. The first
they
generation were the actual soldiers with their families.
The second
farmers
were the ones that were farmers and grazing. Third and fourth, at what point did they stop now farming and grazing?
When there's no land, you cannot graze. When there's no land, you cannot farm.
So what did they start doing?
So they ended up...
What was the economic activity?
They ended up farming the Nubian gene, the famous Nubian gene, weregi. It became the big economic activity for the Nubians, especially in the 60s, 70s. And then, fortunately, there was a bit of reform. They stopped the alcoholism. Now they became more of landlords, but slum landlords, slum millionaires, so to speak. And of course, land is limited. You become a slum. You are not getting educated, and other people are moving on. As a result, we became a marginalized community. You cannot get identity cards. We lost out in the Kenyan dream, so to speak.
Fast forward to 2023.
Yes.
We have a constitution, we have a National Land Commission, we have a constitution that recognizes communal land and all. What is the status of this 4,197.9 acres?
Can I take you back to history?
All right.
The agitation for this land, as Dr. said, started during the colonial period. And I want to take you to 1963. In 1963, the Langata constituency elections for the MP was between Joseph Murumbi and a Nubian, Ratib Hussein. And you recall that later Joseph Murumbi became vice president.
Yes.
You see now, the Kanu establishment of the time convinced our Wazees to vote for Joseph Murumbi and not Ratib Hussein, on the understanding that Murumbi will settle all our issues. So once Murumbi ascended he became an MP, he also had problems with the government and he resigned. Then, fast forward to 1970, the MP was in place at that time, Honorable, the late Yunus Ali, who is my late father, tabled a motion in Parliament for the allocation of the remaining land to the Nubian community.
Remaining land?
Remaining land. At that time, it was 1,200 acres in 1970.
Some 3,000 acres has gone.
Had already gone.
Into Ngumo and others.
So Parliament passed the motion, and the then Minister for Housing, Charles Rubia, was directed to survey the land and issue titles to the Nubian community.
This is 1970 what?
1970. This has not happened to date. Fast forward, in the year 2003, the Nubians staged a very big demonstration in Nairobi, Maandamano. Yeah? They went to the High Court, they went to the British Embassy. Then, after seeing no results, they filed a case at the African Peoples and Human Rights Court in the Gambia in the year 2006. After 6 years, in 2012, the court gave a favorable ruling in favor of the Nubian community. It advised the Kenya government to acknowledge the Nubian land rights over Kibra
and citizenship
for the 4,197.9 acres. By then, only 750 was remaining.
How much?
750 acres was remaining.
Which year was this?
This was 2012. Yeah. So now
it was a landmark ruling, by the way.
So the government now was pressurized to enter into negotiation with the Nubian community. Then there was negotiation, local leaders got involved, local politicians, the Nubian community. So people agreed that the Nubians would take 300 acres and leave the remaining 400 acres to the other communities who had settled there.
Because where do they go? So that they can do slum upgrading under the government. The 300 for the Nubians to settle in it, organize themselves, and follow up on the compensation for the 497 as per the court ruling, which is still pending to date. Although the government has kind of acknowledged it, but yet to take action on it.
Should the compensation then not have been even earlier? Because according to what Carter did, did Carter not indicate that even as land was being developed by the government, the Nubians were owed compensation.
He did.
Yes.
You know, all these places like Impala Club, Jamhuri, all these areas
Kenya
are supposed to be
Science.
developed, and Kenya Science, they're supposed to be developed and paid. But people are just being evicted.
Even the club.
Even the club.
Yeah. Harlequins.
Yes, Harlequins, yes.
Nubian land.
Yes. But they got no compensation at all. In fact, a classic example, when Ayani was developed, they developed 500 houses. Only 30 were given to Nubians, and all the 30 were Nubians who were connected for the day. And that's why whenever I talk about development, guys are very, very edgy, very, very skeptical, because they don't trust government.
They don't trust that they'll actually get anything.
Yes.
Let's take a break. 28 minutes to 8. Kenya's biggest conversation is having a conversation this morning about the Nubian land rights. Why Nubians are edgy over Kibra slum upgrading projects. Ibrahim Yunis is the Secretary General of the Kenya Nubian Council of Elders. Dr. Ahmed Kalebi is the chairman of a task force on the operationalization of the redevelopment and affordable housing project in the same area. As we take this break, DSTV wants to remind you something.
It's the holidays, and there's quite a lot in terms of what your kids can enjoy into the August holidays. DSTV's wonder-filled world of great content across all kinds of channels. The Disney Channel offering up some great entertainment every day between 4 o'clock and then again at 5:55 p.m. and then well into the weekend. Every hour there's something for kids to enjoy. All you need to do is download the My DSTV app or dial *423# and get into the wonderful world of entertainment with DSTV.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Good morning, and I love your show.
Thank you.
Having come from a Kikuyu radio background, I migrated to Spice because of the content.
I was born in a slum, but somehow I got a break in life. So sometimes when you see the sweating coming out because of the passion and whatever it is, behind the noise, there are people, and we share the same umbilical cord.
It shouldn't be like that. I am so disappointed. We used to tell Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga that he's doing police of conmanship, and even President Uhuru Kenyatta, serikali hii ndio iko na conmanship ya hali ya juu. You cannot promise people that you reduce tax, then you double.
In politics, there is the issue of trust. For you to turn around and then stab the same people who gave you that trust, there is no other level of dishonesty. Na hii mambo utaona dunia tu.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
At 13, highs of 26, and we'll see highs of 27 in a sunny Nakuru at 14. It's 13 and sunny in Nyeri, highs of 24, and 12 degrees and sunny in Eldoret, going to highs of 25. It's cloudy at 24 in Mombasa, highs of 30, and we'll see highs of 29 in Malindi, where it's cloudy at 26. It's sunny at 19 in Kisumu and 17 and sunny in Kakamega. Kampala will see highs of 29. It's partly sunny at 19 at the moment, and at 23, Dar es Salaam is sunny. It will go to highs of 29. 14 and cloudy in Johannesburg, highs of 27 and lows of 13, and it's partly cloudy at 25. In Lagos, going to highs of 30, and we'll see highs of 34 in a mostly clear Kinshasa at 22, and that'll be the low for today as well.
Spice up your
movement
life.
on Jogoo Road this morning continues as you get towards Landis. It's then heavy in a bumper-to-bumper state as you approach the Kamkunji roundabout and then onto Haile Selassie with traffic that's coming in from Gong Road. And there we have it on the Thika Superhighway, heavy coming past Survey as you come past KCA University, and then there's incoming traffic from Kiambu Road as well. Everybody meeting at Muthaiga Square. Heading out towards the CBD, you'll find your way then towards Wangari Maathai or towards Muranga Road. As you get onto Wangari Maathai and then out towards the city, you'll see a hold-up of traffic as you're getting in towards the city. Limuru Road is also pretty busy. We're seeing that coming into the CBD as well. Coming off of James Gishiro, manageable, but we're seeing a build-up of traffic here. Uhuru Highway is busy through and through as you're trying to get towards Westlands if you're coming off of Mombasa Road. We're keeping an eye on things. Let us know what's going on where you are this morning. Some movement on Gong Road as well. That's likely to build up later. Spice FM KE on Twitter. Let's talk there.
Chilled Spice. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
All right, 23 morning celebrating 4 years since we went on air 4 years ago. We're hosting Dr. Ahmed Kalebi, who's the chairman of the task force on the operationalization of the redevelopment and affordable housing project in Kibra, and Ibrahim Yunis, who is the Secretary General of the Kenya Nubian Council of Elders. It's about piece of land that has reduced in size from 4,197.9 acres to about 750 acres, which is also still coming to about 300 acres.
288 now. Even the 300 was reduced to 288. That's why you talk of the 288.
Those 2 acres are for roads.
12 acres. No, the 12 acres was the court, some church, the DC office, and some grabbed pieces of land by some individuals.
Okay, tell us about those 288 acres. Where are they?
So the 288 acres now, if you know Kibra, there is this, when you get to Kibra from Ngong Road, there is the DC office.
Yes.
The DC's office.
Yes.
Pale kwa DC.
Yes.
If you turn right, it borders with Moi Girls.
Yes.
And that will go all the way to the entrance to the law court, there where the particular petrol station was, Toy Market. And then you go to Karanja Road. So Karanja Road and the estate there, which is actually supposed to be called Salama Estate. Karanja is one of those guys who built things and gave it their names, and they call it Karanja Estate. You know, grabbed the land and never gave the Nubians much. Then it goes all the way to Katoikera. You know, Katoikera, Kisumu Ndogo. So there is a river there. That river runs all the way to Shilanga, the Nairobi Dam.
Yes.
And then back this way, there's another river that comes between Lainshaba all the way back to the golf course. So we border the golf course, and then you join back to DC office. So that kind of almost like a shoe-shaped map. Yes.
That's actually a big one.
Yes, quite big. 288 acres.
Yeah. Yes. But in the scheme of things, it is a small piece of land.
It's a sliver. It's not even small. You know, if we were to talk about the value of the land as it was originally given, if we start with 4,000 acres and we remove 300, so 3,700 acres has gone with the wind. If we were to look at, that's where I'm starting. The 97, I've decided to purchase Serikali. So 204,000. What would the value of that land be? There's a reason why I'm asking. If you were to ask the government to pay you in cash, that would be a very tall order. However, they can compensate you in kind.
Yes.
Because government does have land.
Yes.
What is the value of that land?
So the value of the land, Kibra is actually prime land.
It doesn't get more prime.
Yes. And we are talking about undeveloped land is between 80 to 120 million per acre. So if you use 100 million per acre for the
times 4,000.
Yes. Yes. About
100 million times 4,000.
About 4 trillion, I think.
Yes. Now, have you pursued that avenue to ask the government to compensate you with land in kind?
We're actually talking to the government. We need compensation in kind. We need compensation in cash. Yes. I mean, one of the biggest challenges, for somebody in my generation, I'm among the very fortunate few who, probably being a bookworm and all that kind of things, I managed to go to school, get to become a doctor. But I have so many of my colleagues, my age mates, who are much brighter than me. But because of living in a very marginalized, impoverished society, they never made it in life. So actually what we are looking at first and foremost is economic empowerment. So can we get compensation and recognition in a way that can allow for economic empowerment of the people? That's the most important thing.
What would recognition look like?
Recognition, first of all, is actually official recognition by government. You know, like what happened with the Pemba, with the Makonde, as a tribe.
Wait a moment.
Yes.
The Nubians haven't gotten it.
No, we don't have official recognition as a tribe. It's just fortunate that the government, for some reason, under the current president and the previous president, when the president was the deputy president then, they actually recognized and gave us a title with the name of Kenya Nubian Community Land, Kibra Nubian Community Land Trust. But as a tribe, we are not recognized.
Okay. Can I ask, in terms of documentation, when we talk about ownership of identity, the Nubian community will get, you have IDs, will have IDs, right?
Very few. of us have IDs.
Is it? And why is that?
The reason is, actually, Nubians are the only inland tribe, not a border tribe, that have to go through vetting processes. When you apply for an ID, even my son who just turned 18 last year, when he was getting an ID after finishing Form 4, I mean, I had to get my grandfather, his grandfather's birth certificate, his grandmother's birth certificate, my ID, and it was still a tall order until I actually had to get my civil service ID as a doctor, and that's when things became fast. Now, there are many Nubians who cannot access anything in this country because they cannot get...
They don't have an ID.
They don't have the commendation. And because you've been born at home, you don't even have a birth notification. Yeah. So you are actually a stateless city, and it's happening in this country. Although the president has spoken about it and said this has to stop. But because we don't have that recognition, we are treated as foreigners in this land.
So you mentioned, I mean...
Actually, it's worse than foreigners.
It's worse than
Yes,
that.
worse than that, yes.
Just so a few months ago, maybe towards last year, we did see the Shona, we saw the Pemba, and those groups then be recognized officially as Kenyan tribes.
Yes.
We're adding to the number.
Yes.
Even Indians.
And
even India,
Asians,
even
yeah.
Muzungus.
Right?
Yes.
So as this recognition process then happened, of course, the details of that are privy. Are there any conversations about this happening? I mean, surely there must be rumblings. We've talked, the president, yes, indeed, has said this kind of maltreatment must stop. So is there chatter that something could be cooking that could say the Nubian community could be a tribe soon?
There's a lot of chatter, and I want to start with Kenokoth, my friend, and his brother who succeeded him in Parliament actually went through the motions until Parliament passed that motion and approved. Now the only thing which was left was for execution by the executive under the former president, but it never happened. Now the current president actually spoke in State House and he mentioned it and he made it a cabinet priority and said this should go on. Now, in his speech, he said the Nubian community leaders should come together and finish this process with the government. But you can imagine when you have a disenfranchised, traumatized society, even to organize themselves can be quite a problem. And that's where we are. So we are hoping that the Kenya Nubian Council of Elders can actually take the leadership and engage government and have this process finalized, because it's basically a finalization of the process.
Yes.
To
recognize them as a tribe, and yet you're not a tribe.
We are a tribe.
You're a community of many sub-tribes.
Sub-tribes make a tribe.
Okay.
So we are a tribe.
You're a tribe.
Yes, we talk the same language, we have the same culture, basically 100% the same religion. We are a tribe, but when you trace back to
you come from different parts.
The Nuba Hills, we actually have different villages or different communities, yes.
Ibrahim,
yes.
How many are you now? So we started with 396 soldiers.
Yes.
How many are you now?
In Kibra alone, the current estimate we have is 60,000 in Kibra alone. Countrywide, we're over 100,000. And I want to add something to what Dr. said. The paradox, the way government takes us around. In the year 2009, the former minister for planning gave us a letter saying that we are the 43rd tribe.
You have a letter?
Yes, we have a letter for census purposes.
Right.
That we are going to be given a code that will now be known as the 43rd tribe.
Which year was this?
2009
during the
during the Grand Coalition government. Unfortunately, this information was not cascaded to other government departments. Like if you go to the National Registration Bureau, the Nubians are still considered as others. They don't have a code. So as others. And now the issue of vetting. By the way, the issue of vetting is very serious. I'm vetted. My father was vetted. My son is vetted. My grandson is being vetted. Does it make sense?
What is vetting?
Doesn't make sense.
That's what I was talking about. You have to go through a series of documents, and you have to go to sit before a panel.
Yeah.
In fact, my son has a very profound question. Somebody that they went to primary school together with, to secondary school together with, all that person needed was to get one ID or photocopy of any of their parents. So she just came with the mother's ID and their school document, any school document, just those two documents. You go to the chief, they stamp, you go to the bureau and you get registered. Him, beside me, being everybody knows me, literally, I was there with him, but he was still being told, you have to go get this and this. And he was even told to bring things like certificate of achievement in school. I mean, Why is that? That is like blatant discrimination. But I want to add something that about the numbers. The 100,000 or 120,000 we're talking about are the people who have identified themselves as Nubians. We have a lot of assimilated Nubians who don't want even to say they're Nubians, because when you say you're a Nubian, when you're going to get your ID, if you are in Kibos, you know Kibos, there are a lot of Nubians in Kibos. If you rather say you're a Luo, because Nubians look a lot like Luos, and things. But the minute you say you're a Nubian, then you become others.
You lose status immediately.
You lose status immediately. So we believe that we are much more than even the 120,000 we estimate.
Now, this slum upgrading project, why was a task force created?
So the task force was created very simply because the government wanted to continue with what they used to call the slum upgrading project. Now they're calling it affordable housing project, because slum upgrading is basically lipstick on a pig. You are trying to upgrade a slum and it will remain a slum. So people didn't like it. And now what they said is they wanted to now do on the 400 acres where there's Raila Estate, Soweto A, now there's Soweto B. So the president said this is his priority. When he came to launch the project in near High Rise, Soweto B, then he says, can we have the same happening in the other land? Then you say, no, this land actually is private land, because the government of the day in 2013 issued a title to a trust by the Nubians. Then he says, okay, in that case, can we talk to them so that we develop it? And that's when they contacted me, and we put them in touch with the Nubian caucus, which is all the organized groups and the elders and the trustees. And when we were discussing how do we go about engaging, because the guys are poor, the guys don't have capacity. So the government then said, how can we help you guys? Of course, the first thing is the guys go like, no, we don't trust government. So I really had a lot to talk to them and say,
to your community,
to my community, and tell them, look, we have to work with government one way or another. Now, in the process, then we said, can we have something that will be tangible, not the simple letters from somebody, and then that's when, because government works with gazettement. Whatever is gazetted is law.
Yes.
So fortunately, the PS Hinga, whom I came to know and I really I like very much as a person, he said that what you guys require is a task force, and we'll bring for you guys all the government departments and counties. So we have in that task force community members and literally director of survey, director of planning, director of this, so that you guys sit on a table and assess what is the community has done on its land for the last 10 years and what they want to do, and how can government help you. And basically that's where we are as a task force. And we had a 9 months tenure ending on 5th of November, 6 months gone. Actually, yesterday was a very big occasion, because we went to the community with our proposals and our recommendations, and the community endorsed it. They have formed a team that is community-led, that is now supposed to take the process forward of there's a master plan that we have come up with, there is a development and finance strategy that we have come up with, and also we need them to organize themselves in terms of their own trust deed, in terms of the legal structures that will engage government and developers and private partners.
In a nutshell, how will the community benefit from all this?
So the community owns the land.
Yes, they do, but how will they benefit?
So now, by developing this land as the owners, they actually be able to participate in that economic wealth creation, because before they never had tenure, but now they have the tenure of the land. Just like you having your piece of land, let's say if you want to come and develop a mall in your piece of land, we enter into a partnership.
To a JV.
Yes, a JV or whatever loan agreement, then you become actually an economic participant in that. Not like before, where, for example, Harlequins, unaambia utoke tu.
Okay, let me ask the question a different way. It's the same question though.
Yes.
How would the individual members of the community benefit? You said participate.
Yes.
Participate how? So benefit.
Yeah.
Benefit how? Meaning, I am part of this thing. You're putting up this structure. You're building this thing.
Yeah.
How exactly am I going to benefit?
In a nutshell.
In a nutshell, granular.
Granular nutshell.
Yes.
Think about it. It might not be the best example in the context, political context, but they are shareholders. They are shareholders of this trust, this land, the value, whatever project it is, they are shareholders. Whatever benefits will accrue in terms of wealth, they'll either get dividends, they'll get allocation of benefits or distribution of benefits, because they are members of the trust.
Let me break this down even further.
Yes.
When you build houses,
yes,
are they going to be given first options?
Not only first option, they will be given houses.
Free.
Right.
Yes, because free in quotes, but remember it is give and take, because you get a house, but it is part of a bigger project.
Okay.
All right.
Dr. Kalebi, is there recognition, even as all this is going on, is there still the current recognition that this land, whether it has been encroached upon or not for development, still belongs to the community?
So
is there recognition of that?
The 288
because if there isn't,
yes,
all these things that we're talking about, will they be recognized? Will they be given? Will they? So is that recognition
so
still?
two aspects. Yeah. Aspect number one is the 288. That is recognized because we actually have a title and a PDP, a physical development plan, and is actually gazetted. So the 288 is recognized, and the government of the day has recognized
community land.
As community. It's actually private land because of the way it was structured under a trust. So the members of the community, the descendants of the 396 families, they are members of that trust, the beneficiaries of that trust. So it's a trust land for perpetual succession. Now, the 4197, it is recognized because we actually have a court ruling, a judicial ruling that is basically binding to the government. So the government has to come at some point and make sure it compensates. So there is recognition of the 4197, but we don't have it yet. But the 288 tuko nao mkononi.
Mkona title.
Tuko na title mkononi.
So back to CT's question. So if I'm assuming that after yesterday's meeting,
yes,
it is clear that the community, Eunice, has said yes to development of affordable housing on this land.
Affordable housing and basically a city, and not just houses. We are looking at commercialization and rest.
Like Railway City now will have
better than Railway City.
Nubian City.
Think of a Dubai in Kibra. A small
Fourth
Dubai in
CBD.
Kibra.
It's supposed to be the fourth CBD.
Yes.
Mambo kubwa.
Ukiangalia TORs, the first thing is how can we ensure that the community get value for money? As what City was saying, how does that the community get? What value do they get? Number two is to unleash the potential
of the land,
and preserve wealth for future generation of Nubians.
Not just housing. Yes.
Number three, build a halal city, modeled on Islamic culture and traditions, but smart with all the modern facilities.
Futuristic.
Right. Yes. So this is what that's the TOR for the task force.
Yes.
And the community has said yes to these things.
Yes.
So the next thing is you come up with a plan.
The plan is there.
The plan now is
to fine tune the plan up to the roads levels, the granular level details, as he says.
Those aren't even granular. Roads, infrastructure, that comes that territory. See, my concern is actually the future generation.
Yes.
This generation is fighting for something that was promised 4 generations ago.
Yes.
You will get all these benefits. How then do you ensure that your young people come up to speed to the 21st century and on an equal footing in terms of opportunity and education like everybody else? How will this investment benefit them? How will you ensure that this is something that will change the lives of that community completely?
Whatever we do now,
yes,
we are doing it in the name of the trust. All our descendants are members of the trust. It is in perpetuity, and that is anchored in the trust deed and in law. Yes.
You know, I'm killing this point. We were asking it over and over. I am looking at the so-called reserves that in the US they set up for what they call the native communities.
Yes.
And I'm looking at the natural resources in those communities.
Yes.
I'm looking at the benefit that the national government, not just the individual states, have benefited from this.
Yes.
And I'm looking at the communities of those Native Americans and how disenfranchised they have been despite all these things that we are saying.
Yes.
And theirs, it's like a state within a state.
Yes.
Okay? It's with that in mind that even as these things are given,
yes,
even as they are proposed and they look good,
yes,
the fail-safes, how will you ensure? Because anything that has to do with the government, Hinga is a good man and he means well and he will do what he says. Hinga is not going to be there forever.
Yes.
Somebody else is going to come along with clever ideas, just like you lost that other land. Somebody else is going to come up with an idea.
The difference is, CT, is that in this instance, we actually have a title, and that title is under a trust. What we are doing, actually part of the legal structuring which the community has endorsed, we actually have a governance structure, a membership structure, decision structure. Nothing will be decided outside that community. It's the community members who decide. The government job in this case is what we actually engage with them. Any private developer, even yourself, if you come, itabidi onge nao. The people are supreme. Actually, it starts almost like the Kenya Constitution with the people. The beneficiaries of this 288 acres are basically the supreme in this instance. Yes.
The land buying companies in this country,
yes,
of communities that don't have the problems that you have.
Yes.
Some of them are in court today. From the time they got that land, God knows how many decades ago.
We know about those cases.
Precisely.
Yes.
So you see where I'm coming from.
the land cannot be sold. That's part of the trust deed. It cannot be sold.
I see.
Yes. There are a lot of I agree with you. There are a lot of safeguards, and one of the things we're actually looking at is, the issue of gentrification. How do we ensure there's no gentrification? In fact, we are going even a step further. It's not just the original the descendants of the original Shamba Pass holders. We're also looking at other Nubians, because our forefathers were very welcoming. We have a lot of Nubians from all over the place who have settled in Kibra. We actually have other tribes. How do we make sure that this project benefits all of them? And that's the conversation, the difficult conversation I've been having, to the point of almost being stoned literally by different quarters. But I'm saying, and this is a summary, this project 288 is a very big project in prime land. It can accommodate all of us and still have room for more. And the more we do in terms of economic wealth creation, the better. Because it's not just about housing. You know what happened in California? California, you might not know California, near Pumwani. People are given houses, but they are too poor to even afford the free houses, literally.
Yes.
Because you move there, before you are in a pit latrine, now you have a flush toilet. You don't have water to flush it. You need to buy electricity. So it is not just simply housing. It is much more than that. And that's the discussion we have been having for the last 6 months. There's a very, very elaborate master plan, a very, very elaborate development and finance plan, but the first point was the community itself had to take ownership of it. Now, our job for the next 2 months is to work with them, hold their hands, bring all the relevant people on the table that they can work with, but they must retain control.
Control of the land. Implementation. Are there timelines and guarantees for implementation of this plan?
As a task force, we are supposed to give recommendations.
But then he's a member of the task force.
I'm also a member of the task force working under him. As a task force, we are going to make recommendations on implementation, because our terms of reference says we are to give a comprehensive development strategy that will include implementation. It also includes putting a framework for monitoring and evaluation. These are the details we are working on with the experts.
Okay. Wish you all the best, and it's a very interesting conversation, and actually good to know. But 288 is what we're working on now. You still have some 4,000 acres to deal with. All the best with that as well.
We have to fight for that. And I'm very glad you raised this to the national level. And thank you very much. And congratulations on your 4 years. Although they say you have to reach 5 years to know that you're secure.
Under
once you have 5 years, it's unlikely that you will. That's a
now is when we're on slippery ground.
You're almost there. So 5 years, then you can celebrate.
Dr. Ahmed Kalebi is the chairman of the task force on operationalization of the redevelopment and affordable housing project in Kibra, and Ibrahim Yunis is the Secretary General of the Kenyan Nubian Council of Elders. They've been here. We're talking about, now we're calling it the Dubai world of the Kibra.
Dubai in Kibra.
The Dubai in Kibra. That's the plan going forward.
Inshallah, as I said.
Keep it here for more conversations coming up. Good morning. It's 8 a.m.
Spice up your life.
Good morning, this is News. I'm Dennis Aseto. Kiharu MP Ndindi Nyoro, a close ally of President William Ruto, has dismissed the ongoing bipartisan talks as a waste of time. Ndindi, who has called for the talks to be cancelled, claims that Kenyans went to the polls last year and chose who they want to lead them. According to the legislator, the bipartisan talks team's first priority should be to end the talks because they will lead nowhere. Ndindi stated that the country cannot wake up every day and night to politics and battles for leadership positions.
Hatuwezi kila siku ni kazi ya viongozi, kila siku viongozi. Sasa hawa wadosi wote viongozi, wadosi hawa wetu kabisa wananchi, waliongea August last year. Na wakasema huyu ndiye ataongoza, na wakasema mwingine atakuwa leader of opposition ama atafanya kazi ya kucheck wale wamechaguliwa. Kwa hivyo with no doubt and with certainty, me as Ndindi Nyoro and the people of Murang'a, the people of Kiharu, the people of Kenya, we are pleading that as the talks resume, the first agenda should be actually to terminate the talks.
Meanwhile, the UDA Dallas chapter has condemned the attacks on U.S. Ambassador to Kenya Meg Whitman by Azimio boss Raila Odinga. They said it is unfortunate that Odinga made such utterances that threatened the engagement between Kenya and the U.S.
As has been said by the President, United States is the number one destination for Kenyan exports. We here, we can attest to that we have more access to Kenyan products more than before it was. Mr. Honorable Raila Odinga is a beneficiary of this economy, the United States. His family, his friends, they are also the beneficiary of this country. So him attacking the ambassador is immature and uncalled for. We want to remind Honorable Raila Odinga that the diaspora remittances is the number one foreign exchange earner. 55% of that remittances comes from the United States.
While urging Odinga to retract his statement, they asked Whitman not to be intimidated but continue strengthening Kenya-US relationship through her office.
Honorable Raila, you need to be reminded that when Ambassador of the United States speaks, the United States has spoken. Kenyans held a fairest elections. 2, our Ambassador Meg Whitman, do not shut up. So, Honorable Raila Odinga, when Whitman speaks, corporate America listens.
The National Union of Teachers, together with some members of parliament, have accused the Ministry of Education of delaying the allocation of funds to schools. Led by NUT chairperson Patrick Karinga, the teachers have asked Education CS to intervene.
I think we have a very sober CS. CS Machobu, I believe he is somebody who listens. We have talked to him. He is trying to check on the very cartels that they talk about in the ministry, because some of these men are given out, and why the money does not reach our teachers in good time, our organizers, we are just wondering why. So we are saying that Machobu and his team should check on the capitation, what they have been giving our people.
Luanda Member of Parliament Dick Maungu says there is already a plan in the Parliament to question Education CS to give more direction about the delay of the allocation from time to time.
We have asked the CS for Education to appear before us and tell us how much money was received, how much was disbursed, and the schedule of all the schools that received that money. Because we find that right now, like in our secondary schools, they have a shortage of about 4,000 each. Is it? The same case for primary schools. In our junior schools, some of them never got that money. So we've asked that question so that we can be given a schedule of all the disbursements as approved by Department of by Parliament and as disbursed by Treasury.
Across the borders, the end of fire that broke out at a camp in the Democratic Republic of Congo for hundreds of families that fled fatal flash floods and mudslides in May has killed 7 children. Local authorities say the camp in Mushunezo is home to around 420 families from Bushushu, a village on Lake Kivu near the eastern border with Rwanda. The village was hammered by fierce rain and landslides that killed at least 400 people in May. Regional Administrator for the Kalehe region, Thomas Bakenga, said the weekend blaze killed 7 children, 2 small boys and 4 small girls, aged 1 to 5 years old. He said 4 adults had been hospitalized for burns. This is Newswire. Dennis Aseto, good morning.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
All right, so a few minutes after 8 o'clock, a little bit of traffic here and there, nothing too painful, but we're looking at a busy Uhuru Highway getting into the city and then out towards Westlands. It's also moving along on the Thika Superhighway, heavy all the way then past Survey into the city. And this is then getting to the junction between Muranga Road and Wangari Maathai Way. We're going to have to contend with that. Kiambu Road has not done too badly today. The little traffic that was there earlier seems to be fizzling away. We're going to keep an eye on that and see what happens. Gong Road, getting onto that junction as you touch on Riara Road, coming in from Naivasha Road as well, Gitanga Road, everybody touching on each other a little bit here and there. You're going to get then towards James Gishoro eventually, and it'll spill over towards Waiaki Way. That's busy. And we're also looking at Ngong Road, getting into the city, touching on Haile Selassie. All right, so everywhere you look, a little spot of traffic here and there, but all doable this morning. Let's keep it just so. Let's talk Spice FM KE on Twitter.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Welcome to the third hour of The Situation Room. Kenya's biggest conversation, celebrating 4 years since we first went on air. When? On the 20th of August.
2019.
And you've done well.
Imagine. 4 years. And we've been here. Every weekday having Kenya's biggest conversation. We are commemorating this by saying thank you very much to everybody who's been watching us, everybody who's been saying, wait, have you heard these guys? Tune in and listen to them. Or have you seen this conversation? Please, can you comment on this? And all the guests who've come onto the show, including our guest this morning who's been here several times before, Gladys Boschole, the Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly. Good morning.
Good morning.
Karibu sana.
And thank you for having me.
Karibu sana. We are marking 4 years, but also our sister station, Radio Maisha, is still taking people over to Nakuru this weekend. For why?
For Choma na Ngoma on the 26th of August. It's always been in Nairobi, but this time things are being taken outside of Nairobi County, and there have been great performances at Choma na Ngoma in the past, the likes of Yemi Alade and Nyashinsky, Pato Ranking. This year, many of Kenya's finest will be out in Nakuru for this edition of Choma na Ngoma at the Rift Valley Sports Club. It's a night of fun, it's a night of partying, it's a night of food, and it's 800 shillings. That's what tickets are going to put you back, just 800 bob. www.ticketsasa.com. Buy your tickets today and then get on out to Nakuru on the 26th. It's going to be one for the books. Otile Brown is going to be there. Calligraph is going to be there. Nadia Mukami is going to be there. Father Moore is going to be there. Imagine a smattering of Kenya's best musical talent with some trauma to boot.
Just this Saturday.
Just this Saturday.
In Nakuru.
Over the, like this.
Before you head to Nakuru on Saturday, just pass by Popper Road in South Sea and you go to Automark and switch up your vehicle, all right? So they're having an open day. Automark, formerly known as Toyotsu, is a subsidiary of CFAO Motors, and they are the best when it comes to pre-owned motor vehicles. They say we understand motor vehicles. We talk about the genuine ones, not the ones that the mileage has been tinkered with. Now the ones where they tell you this is an accident-free car, kumbe is just full of fiber and it's full of accident. No, it's actually a vehicle that is
filler.
Filler imejazwa even a car. You hit a car like this, the whole filler just comes down and you realize, my God, what was this that I bought? What? But Automark tell you we actually look at all those things and make sure that we're looking at the best vehicle to put on the road. So pass by Popper Road, that's Automark, on the same Saturday, the 26th, and they have an open day. Go and see what they have to offer. They'll also do some checkups on your vehicle. Washimua, as we talk about devolution, that's why you're here this morning, let's begin with the day's proverb. CT has the proverb. This is from which country?
This country is called Burkina Faso, and their people, the people of that wonderful country, are known as Burkinabe. Previously, it was called Upper Volta. Now, of interest, 60% of the population of this country, if you were to look at their religious affiliation...
When it was called Upper Volta, what were the people called? Voltage?
Next, you're going to ask me if they're called Upper. I know you.
They were probably still called Burkinabe, but the colonialists came and decided that the Volta River, the people living
on this other side
of the Volta River were called Upper Volta.
The lower, exactly. I've heard your question, Eric,
And
and
he's
I can
ignored your
and I
good
can
one.
see you coming.
Let's just move. Unanionea 18.
18. The capital is Ouagadougou. You know, every time I hear the name Ouagadougou, forgive me, my mind goes back to a book I studied when I was in Form 6. It's called God's Bits of Wood by Semben Usman. It's like a train journey through what was West Africa before the colonialists chopped it up into all these countries that you now hear. Anyway, 60% of the population are Muslim. The Sunni affiliation of the Islamic faith. 20% Roman Catholic. People ask, why Roman Catholic? Well, Protestants are Catholics, but they're Protestant Catholics. Many just don't know that. On to the proverb. Death is unable to speak to an ancestor.
Death is unable to speak to
an ancestor.
Deputy Speaker, what's your interpretation of this proverb?
I was just writing it down so I can think about it. So, an ancestor first, we have to think about it that way, is already gone. Yeah, because the ancestor is already dead.
Yeah. So death is unable to speak to them.
Yeah, because they're already dead. Yes. So death can only address maybe the living because it's a something that it's coming towards.
So what do you think?
So we have a fear of it. You see, an ancestor has no fear of death. We have fear of death because we are alive.
We are the only ones who can be affected by death.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Devolution. I saw you at the Devolution Conference. You were there. You participated very well at the Devolution Conference. Also read a speech representing the Speaker of the National Assembly and talking about the gains of devolution in the last 10 years. From your own perspective, as one who saw devolution coming in, one who even saw, let's see, the Constitution, the promulgation of the Constitution, or even the referendum itself. You're working at the IEBC then.
Yes, I ran the referendum
IEC.
elections, yes.
You ran the referendum election. You saw the new Constitution come in. You saw devolution come in as the first registrar, chief registrar of the new judiciary. And now, as a parliamentarian, has it lived to the dream of the crafters of the Constitution?
I think in part it has. Not 100%. But when you look at it now, I remember there was a time when you'd have to go to Ministry of Roads to be able to ask for a road in your village. But today, you all have to do is go to the governor's office. The Kera offices, the Kura offices are all decentralized. So I think there's a beauty in devolution in that sense. The fact that if there's a bridge that's broken, you can walk to the governor's office and demand that it be fixed. If you go to a hospital and the nurses are absent or the doctor is absent, before there was no one to complain to. But today you can actually go and see the CC in charge of health within the county. It's within traveling distance of you. So in that sense, it's powerful. Also, if you look at the job creation that has created in the counties, because before it's like everyone had to come to Nairobi to work, but now it's created places. I mean, nobody needs to come to Nairobi to be able to earn a living. Contractors now are local. People who are employed as nurses don't have to be employed from Nairobi. They're being employed within the county. So in a sense, devolution has greatly assisted in bringing services closer to the people. But of course, we need to perfect that. There's still many challenges. I think in the first 10 years, I must say, this is my own personal opinion, that many governors were involved in brick and mortar. Construction. But building doesn't give me health services. Health is devolved. Health services means I go to a hospital, there's a doctor, I'm diagnosed, I'm treated, and I go home and I get well. But in some cases, you found governors have spent 10 years putting up a building, which is not complete to this day. And in fact, I have a very good example in my own county, Ziwa Sub-County Hospital. It's a 7-story building that is still a shell. All they did is put brick and mortar. There's nothing. So you can't say that we achieved it, because that's still sad.
Yeah.
They are hospital, but when you compare with the Kirinyaga, and I must say credit goes to, maybe women are just great, Anne Waiguru. She built a level 4 hospital in under 5 years, fully with an oncology department, with doctors. Now, people aren't coming for cancer treatment to Nairobi from Kirinyaga County. It's state of the art. It's just as good as Nairobi Hospital. If you look at what Governor Nanok did in Narok, they used to come to Eldoret all the way from Lodwar for ICU services. Yeah, Turkana. Today, I mean, during his tenure, now they don't come to Eldoret. They have everything there. So, yes, there are some success stories, but there are some that are no success stories. So I think what was exciting was to listen to the president explain to them there's not going to be business as usual. He talked about performance contracting, which is, how do you measure your performance? Not that you built a shell of a hospital, but whether people are actually getting services.
One of the things that he did speak about is that corruption is something that gives him a bad feeling in his stomach every time he thinks about it. And even as we talk about how devolution has then progressed over the last 10 years, we can't ignore the monkey on shoulders of devolution being corruption.
Yes.
That the same county bosses that we speak of, unfortunately, have had their name tarnished or their image tarnished by either things they choose to do or people under them choose to do. That's why we see some of the things that you mentioned, buildings that have not been finished, and then somebody else coming and starting another one. So people talk about devolution and corruption having been devolved now to that level.
Yes, there is definitely a big challenge of corruption in the counties, and it's something we must question ourselves. For example, you ask yourself, as a governor, if I have 10 years in office, or at least 5 years, why do you want to get involved in construction? I could easily buy a building that's already been built, or lease a building, because it's quicker, so that I can just focus on equipping the hospital, sending staff there, and working on it. But they love construction because that's a good loophole for corruption. Why is everyone involved in building, you know? Even when you look at county assemblies, why am I constructing a county assembly office block? I could easily decide to rent a building or buy a ready-made building. But because of the issues of... yes, there is a lot of corruption. It's sad. And you ask yourself, what's your core business? Is to provide health services. You're not a contractor. You were not elected as a governor to construct. It's like when I was at the judiciary, I used to tell people, I do not even want to hear about the issue of... I did get involved in leasing buildings, buying buildings, because I said, I am not a contractor. Our main business is administration of justice. That's our main core business. Even the issue of running a whole fleet of motor vehicles, and then you're like a mechanic. So I used to tell them, I'm the chief registrar, I'm not a mechanic. Why can't we just lease these vehicles? Why are we buying vehicles? And you get involved, you have a whole department. So you find many counties, all of them have bought excavators, they've bought borehole drilling machines, and yet today you ask yourself, how many boreholes? Because if you have your own machine as a county, you should be drilling a borehole daily.
It should be active 24 hours a day.
Yes, should be active 24 hours a day.
Equipment.
It means we should actually have at least 10 boreholes per ward. But you have the equipment, but then you have no boreholes to show for it. And why were you buying that? That is your job is not to be in business, the construction business or the drilling business. That is the job of somebody else who you can hire to do that. So it also tells you their priorities are wrong. I always say, as a governor, if you just focused on two things, agriculture and health, believe me, this country will turn around. And if you listen to the conversation that the president had with them, he says we are importing, billions of shillings worth of edible oil. Yet, 6 counties in the Nyanza region can produce oil. The coast can produce oil, palm oil, coconut oil. The oil we use on our hair, which I used on my hair this morning, is an imported avocado oil. You could easily, we can grow avocados, and we can process that oil. In fact, actually, you can process it in a cottage industry. So that's why he was imploring upon them that we need to rethink. Ask yourself, we're importing rice. And then we import rice, then we say we don't want GMO. Yet the rice we're importing is GMO anyway. So we import the rice, we are importing rice, yet we have rice growing regions.
Yeah.
We have Kirinyaga, I think he said we have 120,000 acres available for rice growing. If you go to the Migori region, you have land lying fallow, yet it's a rice growing region. Only parts of it have been used, less than 10%.
Could you
so
say
if the governor there focused and says our niche will be growing rice, and the central government has said we can support you, so we need I think he was telling governors, you have to reboot your mind, how you think, having the industrial parks. Why did we say we're going to put a heavier more tax on imported furniture? Because if you just had the equipment and a good working space for all those guys who are doing furniture on the roadside, if you got them an industrial park where they have access to equipment, they can produce the furniture that we can use in this country. Yes.
Mheshimiwa, if you look at all those issues that you've raised, in terms of what appears to have been the focus of the first two cohorts of governors, putting the brick and mortar, putting things that people are looking as tangible, do you think this was driven by the citizens and what the citizens judge you as a leader to be? If you don't say that I brought this hospital, if people don't see a road that has been built, we're coming from the Kibaki era where we attribute roads to Kibaki and say Kibaki brought roads. We forget all the other things that Kibaki did. But we talk about roads that Kibaki brought.
No, I mean...
So our governor is coming into office and he's being judged by, so you are here, what have you done?
No, that's what I'm saying, that initially what would happen is a governor, because, in fact, if you ask me, I would prefer if governors were appointed for their CEOs. Like you'd have a CEO of Barclays Bank or ABSA, whatever they call it now. That's the way it's supposed to be. But now what happened is, because they are political, so you find them that they are launching a road. They are launching the building of a hospital. They are putting the first brick. But you know what? After a while, it might gain you political traction at that time. But after a while, people realize, but we have no hospital. So you see that the lasting... So it's you tell yourself, do you want a quick political gain? Or do you want long-lasting political
sustainable
gain?
Project?
Because eventually people say we still don't get health services.
Yeah.
So what you've constructed, but we can see it. We can see that 7-story building.
But we cannot go in there.
We cannot go in there, and there's yes.
Which brings in the other layers.
So eventually, Kenyans are beginning to figure it out. So maybe the governors in the first 10 years got away with it. But believe me, the current governors are not going to get away with it because Kenyans know what they want.
The legislators, all right, from the county assembly to the National Assembly to the Senate, the oversight role. Do you think those three houses have played their oversight role sufficiently to support devolution?
I think what has happened with the Senate, the Senate really should be the ones oversighting the governors. The Senate should be the ones going around the country, going to check out the hospitals. Why is this hospital not complete? Why is it that's been stalled for the last 3 years? Is it a challenge that they haven't gotten funds? Is it a challenge that the contractor, is not doing their job, and so on? That way they can actually help the governor work better. Unfortunately, our Senate has been more focused on doing oversight on the executive. They've been, the National Assembly summons a minister, and then the next day is summoned by the Senate. So I think if the Senate can reboot their minds and realize that they should be focusing on the governors, they should be the ones taking on KEMSA. Why are the drugs delayed in reaching the counties? They should be summoning KEMSA on that issue. If it's a case of a project where it was part funded by national government and part funded by the county, they should also be interrogating those. So I think if they were very keen on their oversight role, they can actually help the counties perform better.
Are you saying you don't think the Senate has performed its role?
Yes, I think so.
Is it?
I think they can do better.
Is it because of a clash between the National Assembly and the Senate, where in some cases you've talked about KEMSA? Why then is the National Assembly summoning the leadership of KEMSA about procurement and all? Why not just leave it to the Senate then too? No,
I think you have to. That's what I'm saying. Their roles have to be clear. But with time, I'm seeing it getting more clearer. For example, the National Assembly can summon KEMSA on the issue of procurement because a budget issue. and the budget is appropriated by the National Assembly.
Okay.
So they can do that. But in terms of dispersing the
distribution of
the drugs to the counties, then Senate should be saying, we are getting complaints from the counties that the drugs are not arriving on time, or that when you delivered the drugs, it was just malaria drugs. Yeah, and so on.
And not
see
the others.
Yes, and so how to improve it. For example, I know that some counties which are doing very well is that they have an arrangement with KEMSA where the drugs are delivered directly to the sub-county hospital, not through the central county headquarters.
Yes.
That way, each hospital is able to request drugs that are specific to that area. Because one area might need, a respiratory problem. They have respiratory problems, are prevalent, so they need the medicine for that. Or in some places, a malaria zone and so on. But in some counties, you find that the medicine is received by the county headquarters. By the time it gets to the sub-county hospitals, it's a long range. I know some successful counties, what they're doing is that the local hospital has its own management board, which is local. And then when they receive any money they earn, they are able to appropriate it for buying whatever they need within the sub-county hospital. In other counties, the money is sent back to the county headquarters and it hardly comes back to them. But there are some success counties who have done that. I know that Elgeyo Marakwet has done that, and what they do is that they receive whatever money they earn, they can be able to buy their little disposables and so on, but they have to account for it. So when they do get an appropriation from the headquarters, they are able to offset on what they receive.
From what they've already
so
spent.
You find that the medical superintendent in that hospital is able to work better than in others. So I think this is an opportunity also for counties to learn from each other. Look at a county that's doing so well. Like I think Senate should visit Kirinyaga and the Turkana County and find out how Governor Nanok and Governor Waiguru managed to build that hospital in such a short time, fully equipped, fully functional, that it's
working.
Yes.
When you talk about these roles of oversighting and supporting devolution in terms of legislation, so the Senate can come up with all these laws about legislation that would support devolution, that would help make these things easier. For example, if it's about ring fencing funds that are collected from at the hospital and not having to send it to the county accounts, but then spending it at source, that's a legislation issue that needs to be supported by Senate. But there are very many instances where you've seen the National Assembly and the Senate engaging in sibling rivalry, where there are several cases that have even gone to court. The National Assembly, where you sit now, and where you've sat even in the 12th Parliament, and the Senate taking each other to court over duties, who should perform this function. Is that not affecting devolution when these two houses don't seem to understand where their roles begin and where they end and where they are concurrent?
There's a lot that actually is not even an issue of legislation at the national level. This is legislation, regulations, delegated legislation that is done at the county assembly. So it's a matter of operations within the county. You don't even need to come to the national government for it. So I can give you a good example. In the 12th Parliament, I remember I was chairperson of delegated legislation in the National Assembly. Then the Senate had also had a committee of delegated legislation.
Yes.
But they wanted to oversight the same legislation by the executive, by the ministers. But really what they should be oversighting is the delegated legislation at the county level. Because that's where the problem is. You will find that Nandi County, which is 42 kilometers from Eldoret, has different legislation for trade.
Yep.
Then you come to Wasingishu, we have different legislation. Then you go to Elgeyo Marakwet, have a different legislation. You get to Trans Nzoia, different legislation. What it does, it makes it easier for people to do business. Difficult for people to do business. So what the Senate should be focusing on, harmonizing that. And I remember at that time I engaged Honorable Pogisho, who was the chairperson of delegated legislation in the Senate. And I said to him, focus. In fact, you can be so busy just doing that. Because if you can help the counties harmonize that, then makes it easier for people to work. For example, the counties are losing a lot of money in the revenue collection. Most of it actually is lost through corruption. They can raise much more. You find that I remember one time going to pay for the women for the day. They had to pay 40 shillings each to be able to, for the market day.
Yeah.
And that's why I asked, how do I pay this money? And I was told, pay it in cash. I was like, what? People pay cash in this day and age? So, of course, how much of it is going to the county?
Yeah.
Have you seen all those roadblocks where they have county revenue collection,
Yes,
that little booth? Says. It's collected in cash.
Yep.
Do you think that money makes it to the government?
Some of it. a small
portion of it. Yes. So sometimes you can improve your revenue collection just by changing the manner in which you collect revenue. And I have a very good example. When I was at the judiciary, we started something called Faini Chap Chap using M-Pesa at Kibera Law Courts. The revenue we used to collect was like 50,000 shillings thereabouts per day. Just launching Faini Chap Chap, it went to over 500,000 a day. Just at the launch of it. But of course, as soon as I left, they killed the process. Yeah, because it doesn't work for people who want to steal money. So I like the fact that there is a clear decision by government now that we should digitize government services. Because if you just said no more paying money, cash, you pay it through other means. And even then, let it be one portal. Because also,
have a harmonized
because there are some places who said we are now collecting money, by
USSD here.
Yes, exactly. But the problem is, it was going to an account. So there are two accounts. So some goes to this account, some goes to that account.
To the other.
Yes. Yeah. So that has to change. So these are realities, and and that's why I said when the president said it's not going to be business as usual, it shouldn't be business as usual, because that must change. And they're being told we will have one uniform payment system. The other day I had some guests arriving from overseas, and we were waiting for them at the immigration place. And then when they got there, they said we've been asked to pay for the visa, but they want cash. They won't accept their cards. So I asked myself, you mean there is a place where you still collect? So that $50 they pay, does it really make it to the government? Who collects? That guy who's collecting 50, why do they want cash? So then, anyway, I had to go to the bank downstairs, get dollars in cash, and take it up to my guest to pay. And in fact, actually, I made a note that I need to call PS Bitok and just let him know that cannot happen. Yes.
Not
Why don't you have a card machine there? Why don't you have the M-Pesa? Because inevitably, somebody who's coming from overseas, the only payment method you have when you travel is your credit card.
It's card.
Yeah. So why is it that we don't have a card machine? Is it because we don't have card machines in Kenya, or is it because there is a bigger racket? And those are conversations that need to be held.
26 minutes to 9, Kenya's biggest conversation, hosting Gladys Boschele, the woman rep for Uasin Gishu County and the Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly. We are talking about devolution, looking at the 10 years of devolution and the impact that it has had, and the role the National Assembly plays in enhancing devolution. Keep it here for that. Go TV.
Yes, Go TV and the holidays for kids, saying that, you know what, there is an opportunity this Monday for your kids to enjoy a lot of programming, and Go TV has you covered. Different shows for kids of all ages. If you have a toddler, let them enjoy Zig and Shako at 6:55 p.m. on Cartoonito. That's on channel 90 on Go TV Super. If you have a teenager, no worries. Let them enjoy themselves with Henry Danger on Saturday and Sunday on Nickelodeon channel 87. It's all on Go TV Value. Download my Go TV app or dial *423# and stay connected to the fun. Go TV, love it.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
If a lion shows you its teeth, it doesn't mean it likes you.
It doesn't mean it likes you. It won't start. A liar calls as witness one who is either dead or far away. Say it in
Ben Low, nin inte, nin there, you markati kadikta. You know this character called liar. he has disturbed people. So when you tell him, who are your witnesses, he will take you to a place where it is difficult to verify.
For someone like me who sweats a lot, I cannot survive there. Sweating is biblical. Good. And you must blame it on Adam, not me, because Adam messed up and he was told, no, you fellow, you, by the sweat of your brow, thou shalt eat.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Conditions in Nairobi at 15, highs of 26 and lows of 14. We'll see lows of 13 in a sunny Nakuru, and it's sunny at 15 in Nyeri, going to highs of 25. We'll see highs of 25 as well in a sunny Eldoret at 14. It's sunny at 25 in Mombasa, highs of 30. 29 will be the high, and mostly cloudy in Malindi at 27. It's 21 and sunny in Kisumu, highs of 31, and Kakamega will see highs of 30, where it's sunny at 21. 21 and sunny in Kampala, highs of 29 and lows of 17. And we'll see highs of 29 in a sunny Dar es Salaam at 25. It's sunny at 17 in Johannesburg, highs of 27 and lows of 13. While it's mostly clear in Lagos at 25, it'll go to highs of 30 and highs of 34 in a sunny Kinshasa at 21.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Unright. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
All right, heavy on Landys Road, getting towards the Kamkunji roundabout, and we're seeing some traffic coming off of Gong Road and a little bit of it on the Thika Superhighway as well. Now is when it's busy coming out of Westlands. James Gishore will be busy over the drift towards Waiakiwe, all the way through to Chiromo, and now we see traffic on Limuru Road coming in from Kitisuru, in from Roslyn, and then through towards Limuru Road. Ruaka also very busy right about now. That's all happening at in the middle of traffic right about now. Into the CBD as well, pretty busy. Let's keep an eye on things. What's happening where you are this morning? Spice FM, KE on Twitter. Let's talk as we keep things moving.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings.
1 minute to 9. The conversation continues with the Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly, who is also the Uasin Gishu County Woman Representative, Gladys Boss-Shile. Mheshimiwa, I just want to go back into the relationship between the National Assembly and the Senate. Now, because you're leader of the National Assembly, your Speaker of the National Assembly is a former two-term member of the Senate and a former member of the National Assembly. So now we have leadership at county level, at Senate, at National Assembly, people who have actually interacted with both levels of government and both levels. Now, several bills that were coming out of the Senate in the 12th Parliament would be transmitted to the National Assembly, and because of time, they died. Several of them came to the National Assembly, the 12th Parliament, and they died there. The Honorable Sakaja, who was then a senator, who's now a governor, came up with a bill on startups. That bill was transmitted to the National Assembly, because of time, died. There was another one by Senator Farhia, which was looking at how counties can pay their bills on time. And this was on pending bills. Again, transmitted to the National Assembly, gets to the National Assembly, joins the queue, and it's kicked down the road, it dies. So when the National Assembly becomes the stumbling block to bills that are emanating from the Senate, that's a bad thing, isn't it?
Yes.
As a leader of the National Assembly, what are you doing now to make sure that this don't happen?
I think what has happened now is that there's both speakers of the House have actually had very serious conversations about those issues. They've made you'll listen to the Speaker of the National Assembly. He's now giving timelines to the committees. It's actually not that the fact that it has gone to the Senate and come back to the National Assembly, that takes time. It's sometimes that it's in the committee, and then it's so slowed down at the committee. And you must remember in the last Parliament, there were serious problems, because what happened is the first crop of chairpersons were removed, and then people like me, and then a new set of chairpersons came in, and there was a push and pull because like the majority party had split. Yes. So there was a split in it, and so like I found that during my tenure, which was not very long, I think it was 2 years, we were still rated as the highest performing committee in Parliament, and with the highest number of reports ever in the history of Parliament. That means since independence. But the moment that the next chairperson took over, that committee died. So it was also the confusion. So that was the challenge. And many of the bills now have come to the 13th Parliament, and both speakers of the House agreed that they can be carried over. If the member who had sponsored the bill is no longer in Parliament, members have been encouraged to adopt it.
Okay.
So you'll find that there are several bills that have been adopted that were from the previous Parliament, and in many of them, they don't even have to go through the pre-publication scrutiny because it had already happened. So there's been ways to speed it up. And I think now there's more conversation, there's more synergy between the two houses than was in the 12th Parliament or the 11th Parliament for that matter, because the lessons have been learnt. At the beginning, there was a supremacy battle. If during the constitution making process, what happened was that many of the people were members of the National Assembly who were participating in it.
Yeah.
And so they gave a lot of powers to the National Assembly, forgetting that many of them would end up in Senate.
Many of the senior ones in the National Assembly.
Yes. So, but I think that, and I think the lawsuits between Parliament and the National Assembly were good, because it has allowed the Supreme Court to pronounce itself on many of those issues. So it's always when you start something, it's hard, but it gets smoother because there's more clarification. It's the same thing I say about elections. The fact that cases were filed against the presidential petitions, presidential election, and against even the parliamentary elections was a good thing over the years, because the law became more clarified.
Yeah.
So you'll see that IEBC in 2013, they had many mistakes. In 2017, from the pronouncements of the court, they perfected it. And then from the pronouncements of the court in 2017, by 2022, they were on top of their game because there was clarity. Before, there wasn't clarity. In fact, this year, there were very few petitions on the
election.
The elections, county assembly and also parliamentary. And of course, the lawyers tell me it's bad for their business.
No, let's look at that.
But we'll reach a point. Yeah. So right now, nobody goes to court because you know what the outcome will be, and you need a certain threshold of evidence for you to sustain that. Yeah. So many people have realized I don't want to waste my money on election petitions. So it tells you that having lawsuits is a good thing.
Okay. Let's look at how things have progressed, even as we talk about devolution and how that has progressed over 10 years. This current administration has been in this position for the last 1 year, and there are many things that are happening as a result of that. We saw that with the devolution conference that took place to kick off essentially what will happen development-wise in the counties over the next, 5 years, right? Now, how would you say things have happened, the kind of synergy that you're hoping then will happen between the executive, between the National Assembly, county governments, and with all the other things that are happening around this whole circle since the election that took place in August last year? It's been about a year. Are these signs of good things coming?
Yes, I think if you saw in the past when devolution started, the governors basically behaved like they were mini presidents running their own little countries, and that the national government was some other monster. So they felt like, don't interfere with our work, this is our mandate and so on. But I see what has happened since the last election is that there is very close working relationship, an interdependent working relationship between the national government and the county governments, which is a good sign. For example, just something as simple as what they used to call the community health volunteers. I think now they're being called community health volunteer promoters. And basically, the national government reached out during the first summit that the president held with the governors, and he said to them, we need to employ these people. They're going to help us with primary health care. And the national government said, we shall pay for half the amount. The counties will pay the other half. And that has been rolled out. I know it's been rolled out in Kakamega. Governor Lusaka has a very good system, I think, and that is also being done in conjunction with the national government. I think I heard that the Minister of Health was trying to get them handheld devices where they can put in data. So you find that one volunteer is dealing with 100 households. And basically, if that is caught in time, some of these illnesses and so on, it will cost us less to treat the person. And then we have a less sick population. I will use the example that when I had the Jiga campaign cleanup in Uasin Gishu County, actually, the people who told me which place had Jigas were the community health volunteers. Because they're the ones who know people household by household, something that the county can't know. So the fact that the government is now recognizing them and that the county is hiring them and that the data they collect and the information is reaching the county directly is working very well.
It's moving things forward very well.
Moving forward.
There's a problem though, Mweshimiwa. When the national government says we will employ some of these community health workers, don't you see a problem? This is a devolved function. Why is the national government saying we shall retain this function and help you employ your employees? Why not put that money into the kitty for devolved government so they can hire their people? Same thing has been raised about the national government building markets. Markets are not a national government issue. It's a county issue.
You see, what was happening is that this was actually on conversations with the governors. I did attend the summit briefly in Naivasha. The governors themselves says we don't have enough resources from what is allocated to us to do some of those projects. So the national government does have resources to do that. So what they're saying is that we shall build the markets, but we shall hand them over to the counties. The counties can agree on the design. They're the ones who will provide the land. It's just the resources that are going to be given by the national government. And after that, even the revenue collected from those who rent the markets will go to the counties. So it was actually a way of supporting the counties in places where they had shortfalls. And even the community health promoters, the county says, we are stretched. We do not have any more resources to pay for this, to employ more people. So the national government says we shall chip in. What they're actually doing is these are employees of the county, except the government is supporting part of the amount required to pay for these people. And I think that is how it should be. It's the way we agree that there are certain roads that counties build. There are certain roads that are built by the Kenya National Highways, KENA. Then there are others that are under Kura because they are designated.
You know, Mheshimiwa, for the longest time, one of the things that I'm contributing to what you're saying has always existed are market days. All over the country. Market days. Now, the issue you speak of with regards to community health promoters who are workers, it's actually informed by data. It's informed by research.
And they exist. The community health volunteers exist, except they were volunteers.
They were volunteers who were supported by partners. Now, there was a community strategy that was implemented in 2012 in the regions where the prevalence of HIV was at its very highest. They came up with some of these models. What you speak of is actually supported by data. There was a program that sought to determine the use, the help, and the effectiveness of community people without even the most basic of any health training, to diagnose malaria, pneumonia, and I'll come up with the third one, to diagnose it at a community level and to even treat it. It's called ICCM. Integrated
diabetes.
Yes. Now, they were taught.
Blood pressure.
They could do it because they were equipped. They were trained. Lay people who didn't have such training. Now, that 3-year study came up with the findings that just those processes in the areas where the study was conducted, it reduced hospital visitation by something like 75%. So it's something that works, and that is being implemented is a wonderful thing. The archives at the Ministry of Health are full of studies that if they were implemented, the preventative and promotive aspect of our healthcare that we keep speaking of would be sorted out conclusively. But it's never, because the curative aspect where you have to buy many, many things is always more profitable. Now, for the markets, these things that we're doing, is it informed by data? Is it informed because we have practice? Has that practice been collated, collected, analyzed, so that when they say we are building, I'm saying this because you also go around the country and you'll find marketplaces built empty. Because they are far away, some of them, from the center where people work. It's new, it's beautiful, but very little traction. We saw in Nairobi here the number of times they've tried to move the so-called hawkers to some center. How has that worked out? So again, as the government implements these things, the intention we can see is clear. But are the actions supported by data? Is it data-driven?
I think it's also, we need to create discipline within the country. If you drive along the country, you will find that all along the roadsides, people are selling wares, and, it's basically, the entire roadside is a market. And that is why you saw the accident that happened in Kericho. It was a disaster. That shouldn't happen. So you provide the market for them, but you will make it compulsory for them to move to the market. It will create discipline. In many places, people said we don't have a market. By the way, the few markets that were built, there are not many of them, and some of them were put in the wrong place. You also have to put the market near where people... Location. Yes, it has to be where people can easily reach, where people habitually go to. So it's going to be a much more strategically well thought out place. There are many places where the woman says, we are doing this in the open air, tunachomwa na jua. And it's not just going to be building the markets just to have a shade. It's also, because I think that was the concept that was done before, you just build a structure to have a shade. But if you put cold rooms there, and people can know that my tomatoes will not go rotten, that I can have a cold room for my potatoes. When you create those services, it will actually, there has to be an incentive for someone to move off the road and go there. So that was the problem, is that the initial concept was...
It was misplaced.
It was misplaced, yes.
Right.
It was. So I'm going to just stay under a shade for what?
Why?
Yeah, for
and I'm
reason.
far away from the people. But when you put those, people will begin to move to those markets. If you tell them that there is water facilities there is washrooms, because that was a big challenge.
Clean washrooms.
When you go around speaking to people, they'll tell you there are no bathroom facilities, there is no water, there is no cold room facilities, there is no storage facilities. Yes.
Mheshimiwa, I've got to end here with the looking back at last week. We met in Eldoret, very clean town, by the way. The people of Eldoret have kept it's beautiful.
The city of champions.
It should become a city. Again, it was delayed because Senate and all. But there were also complaints in Eldoret around this time about the Canada-Finland airlift. But Mheshimiwa, as the woman rep of that county, you've been eerily quiet about this issue. Why?
I was deliberately quiet because I did not know of how this happened. When I sought information of what transpired, I did not get the information from the right authorities, because I always tell myself, I always speak on facts. I don't pick up rumors from the street. I wanted to find out. I kept on telling, in fact, I remember wananchi would ask me, Mama, mbona hujasema kitu? And I told them, even me, I'm trying to understand what exactly transpired. Because we should have gotten guidance from the former governor and the current governor. They're the ones who are in the know. They're the ones who are in charge of those accounts. But with time now, because of course of the investigations, we've begun to understand what it was. It was sold as a scholarship, but it was not really a scholarship. Parents were paying. And parents were only paying a certain amount of money, and then their children would get visas and they would go overseas. But we also find that parents weren't informed that once your child goes overseas, you still have to pay. Because in some of them, the parent was told pay 1.1 million, and the parent thinks that after you pay the 1.1, it's done.
That's enough.
It's not enough. When you look at the school fees required by that university in 4 years, is 4 million shillings.
Yeah.
So is that parent capable of paying the 4 million?
Mheshimiwa, are you saying that during this time when parents were selling pieces of land to contribute to this, you were still woman rep?
Yes.
You were still a leader in this area? Are you saying you were not aware that this was happening?
Yes, I heard about Harambee happening, but the information we got, and which is public, is that it was a scholarship. And I assumed, I thought the county was paying for it. And if you know my style of politics, I never get involved in anything the county is doing. I have my own programs. I'm very clear about what
Not your monkey, not your forests.
Yes.
What do you think should happen now that it's very clear what has happened?
I think money should be reimbursed to the parents who paid money. And I think that program should be shut down.
What about the students who've already gone to Finland?
Yes, and that is now, you have to think about the students who've already gone. How are we going to sustain them there so they complete their studies? I think it's something that the county government must deal with, because we can't also have a situation where those children come back.
Sure.
They must complete their studies. But for now, we should stop sending children there until we have a clear methodology of doing this. And then we must also sensitize the parents that it is not actually a scholarship. You'll be expected to pay for your child. And when your child goes overseas, they only work for 40 hours maximum, according to a student visa, which is not sufficient to sustain them.
Do you think the leadership of Uasin Gishu, not just the then governor or the then county executive, the then county assembly members, the then woman rep, the then members of the National Assembly, the then senator, should have become more involved, more inquisitive then?
In my mind, for me, I respect authority. If the governor says that I'm launching a scholarship program, I say very good. I assume that it is what it says it is. It never occurred to me in my wildest dreams that this was actually not true. I did not know that monies that had been taken for certain students was used to pay for other students. And you see, really, that is wrong. Because that's, if you take money from me to pay for my child, then you use that money to pay for another child, that is fraud. It's actually, what is it called? Obtaining money by false pretenses. Because you lied that it was for my child, and then you paid it for another child. So those are the things that are now emerging. It was, in fact, if you remember, not much was talked about this issue. It was just scholarship. That's what we knew.
So what should happen to the individuals who sold it as one thing, but it was actually another thing? And I think we're skirting around instead of saying because they are actually government officials or previous, county officials, doesn't matter at what level, what should happen to them?
No, I think investigation be done. Who collected the money? To which account was it taken? And who was in charge of paying to the wrong people instead of paying for those who went there? Where did the money go that was collected from parents? And based on that, I think EACC can do its job. And whoever is found culpable, of course, the law will take its course. Yeah, because
that is prosecution, punishment,
yes,
and reimbursement.
There's laws in this country against that kind of issue. And that's why I'm saying there's a lot of misinformation. A lot of the parents did not even know that the money that there was no scholarship really, that they had to pay for it.
It was a con game.
Yeah.
Mheshimiwa Gladys Boschole, Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Come again soon.
I will.
Good morning, 9 a.m.
Settle. The Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education Teachers are now proposing that its members get an increase of between 30 and 70% instead of the 7 to 10% as recommended by the Salaries and Remuneration Commission. Corporate Secretary General Akello Misori says they will not accept the increase as proposed by SRC because they have their collective bargaining agreement that guides salary increment. Teachers' salaries will form the better part of the engagement between Corporate and TSC scheduled for tomorrow at the Government Training Institute.
We will prioritize
basic salary increment. We will also prioritize promotions, and then we also prioritize medical benefit, and then finally pension schemes. So those 4 areas will form the basis of us agreeing or not agreeing. It is in TAC there you retire and you take 3 years before you see your retirement benefit. So these are things which we think should form the basis of the talks.
The National Union of Teachers, NAT, together with some members of parliament, have accused the Minister of Education of delaying the allocation of monies to schools. Led by NAT chairperson Patrick Karinga, the teachers have asked Education CS to intervene.
I think we have a very sober CS. CS Machobu, I believe he is somebody who listens. We have talked to him. He is trying to check on the very cartels that they talk about in the ministry, because some of these men are given out, and why the money does not reach our teachers in a good time. Our organizers, we are just wondering why. So we are saying that Machobu and his team should check on the capitation, what they have been giving our people.
Luanda Member of Parliament Dick Maungu says there is already a plan of Parliament to interrogate Education CS to give more direction about the delay of the allocation from time to time.
We have asked the CS for Education to appear before us and tell us how much money was received, how much was disbursed, and the schedule of all the schools that received that money. Because we find that right now, like in our secondary schools, they have a shortage of about 4,000 each. Is it? The same case for primary schools. In our junior schools, some of them never got that money. So we've asked that question so that we can be given a schedule of all the disbursements as approved by Department of by Parliament and as disbursed by Treasury.
Teachers also want issues to do with promotion to be handled.
The promotion method, which was based on career progression, it has been terribly abused. So it will form the basis of these talks on Tuesday. We agreed with the Teacher Service Commission in Naivasha that when somebody has been substantially appointed, let that person be given a station to be a head teacher. And the head teachers were categorized. Any single school was supposed to have at least 5 heads of department.
Senators want 60% of the shareable billions of shillings disbursed by the National Treasury to county government to be allocated to Ward Development Fund to accelerate growth. They raised concern that for the development to be spread equitably across the wards, there was urgent need for the residents at the lowest levels in the county to enjoy the fruits of devolution through allocation of 60% of the projects of their choice. According to Kiambu Senator Karungo Thangwa, the senators who termed the move as long overdue said they would fight for the speedy implementation of the Ward Development Funds. And the plan to introduce a motion of no confidence against Speaker of the Trans Nzoia County Assembly Andrew Wanyonyi continues. It is alleged that Wanyonyi has failed in his role due to his gubernatorial ambitions. Youth groups in Trans Nzoia County have pressured the County Assembly to speed up the process of ousting Speaker Andrew Wanyonyi and find a substantive speaker. Kwanza constituency youth leader Justice Martha Ozea has said that it has already been established that the speaker is aiming for the governor's seat in 2027.
Mheshimiwa Andrew Wanyonyi ambaye ni speaker wa Trans Nzoia County, yeye ndiye nitakana akue ana run hizo proceedings zenye zinaendelea kwa County Assembly. Kwa hivyo akianza kutake side sahi, akianza kuonesha ambitions ya kwamba yeye anataka kukuwa governor na anaanza kupiga governor aliyopo vita, inamaanisha ya kwamba development kwa watu ambao msupport haitakuwa inafanyika vizuri, na inamaanisha ya kwamba miswada mingi hapo bungeni haitakuwa inafanyika vizuri. Alipoteuliwa kuwa speaker hakuwa ameresign. Kwa hivyo tunaomba hata EACC ifuatilie na ijue ya kwamba huyu mtu ni kama there is double interest, which is not good.
James Lusweti is asking Wanyonyi to resign so he can follow his dreams of being a governor.
Speaker wa County Assembly ya Trans Nzoia, tunamuomba kwa unyenyekevu aungane pamoja na George Natembea, wafanye kazi kwa wana Trans Nzoia. Mahali popote ambao kuna vita, maendeleo hayapo. Ninaomba waungane, arudishe chini ambitions zake, angoje 2027.
I'm Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Lunga in and outbound traffic is busy this morning, and we're looking at it on Uhuru Highway as well, getting into the CBD. That's probably where we'll see the most of it this morning. On the Thika Superhighway coming into the city, we're looking at Pangani clogging up out towards Wangari Maathai Way or then Muranga Road. Now is when it's getting busiest on James Gishuru, and we're looking at it also coming on Gong Road, a little bit here and there, but again, nothing too painful, can all be handled. Let's see in a bit, about 9:30 or so, and see when we'll be out of traffic hour, what it looks like then. In the meantime, speak to us about what may be popping off. Spice FM KE on Twitter.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
A pre-owned motor vehicle? Yes, you are, right? Are you also looking to make sure that you buy the best motor vehicle that your money can afford? I'm sure you are. I'm sure you also want to make sure that you buy a pre-owned vehicle that is in good condition. A condition that somebody can look back and tell you, I can guarantee you that the condition that we've told you this vehicle is in, that's the condition. Not those ones of, oh, it's a very good vehicle. Then you find it's clean, female owned.
One female owner.
Yeah.
Driven on tarmac.
City. It's a city vehicle. Then you realize, where?
Nothing.
It was a Mira vehicle. Kumbe. If you are in the market for a pre-owned motor vehicle, please go to Automark. Automark is a subsidiary of CFAO Motors. CFAO is a combination of 3 different companies previously. Now, there are very many brands. Toyota Kenya, they're also the ones who are handling very many other models like VW and all. And Automark is at Bellevue in South Sea. This thing of Popper Road is confusing. That road is called Popper Road, but forget. Bellevue in South Sea, just get to Bellevue, ask for, where is Automark? They'll ask you, Automark? Ask them, where is Toyotsu? That's what it was formerly known as, Toyotsu. It's now called Automark. It's a subsidiary of CFAO. They sell very good pre-owned motor vehicles, and they have an open day this Saturday. If you go this Saturday, 26th, get there, you'll see the cars. They'll even check your own car and tell you the condition of your car. And then once you have your car checked, hit the road, head to Nakuru, because
Choma Nangoma is happening this Saturday, the same 26th, after all your vehicle things have been sorted out. Choma Nangoma, fire everywhere, whether it's the fire for the meat or the fire for the music. We're doing this business this weekend. I'm telling you, it's not a small wala. Calligraph in the house, Otile Brown crooning those things. The ones that CT likes, Benso, will be in the house. The ones that Eric likes, Nadia Mukami, will be in the house. Everybody
Nviri the storyteller. Did you not find out Nviri the storyteller?
I did, and I was sent one of his
and you have very many of his songs. Kauko sawa niko sawa. Hey. That one and many others.
All of them in the house this Saturday. It's at the Rift Valley Sports Club. It's the first one that's happening outside of Nairobi, under the umbrella of Radio Maisha, our sister station. And this is all happening on the 26th. Get on down to the Rift Valley Sports Club. 800 shillings, man. That's what it is. www.ticketsasa.com. Let's get out for a night of Choma Nangoma.
Affordable housing. So we've heard about the Dubai coming to Kibra in the affordable housing project. The affordable housing has been a conversation in the country. Now there is deduction for everybody who is a salaried employee. Pesa inaenda to affordable housing. Is it a reality or is it an illusion? We have with us in the studio an expert in real estate development and a land economist, Okoh Getonga. Good morning.
Good morning to you.
Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation.
Yes, thank you very much for inviting me for this session.
Good of you to occupy the hot seat of the situation. Make yourself comfortable.
Okay. Yes, I'm not going to assert.
Very good. You're an expert in this, in the matter that we are about to discuss.
Yes.
Yeah. People know Okoh Getonga, and others know you with other names. What do they call you?
A lot of people call me VG because my first name is. It's a V. The name is, so I'm called Okoh Getonga, but V Okoh Getonga.
The first name is a V. I'm trying to think. Viscount.
I let somebody just Google it. It's a very difficult name.
Apart from that, what other male name starts with a
Vincent?
Vincent, Victor,
Vitalis.
All wrong.
All wrong.
Yes.
Why?
You'll have to call me for another show.
Vasco da Gama.
Valedictorian.
But simple, just call me VG.
Sawa. VG. Welcome to the Situation Room.
Yes.
City has the day's proverb.
I do. Our proverbs for the whole of this week are from the country of Burkina Faso. Death is unable to speak to an ancestor.
Death is unable to speak to an ancestor. VG, when you hear this one, what do you make of it? What's your interpretation?
Death is unable to speak to an ancestor. I think what it means is that after you've died, you can no longer make sense to anybody who was there before you. Was that
After you die,
yes,
you no longer make sense.
Yes.
To those that you've left behind.
Yes.
Essentially, your relevance to the land of the living is limited.
Yes.
Little relevance, little consequence.
Limited.
Limited.
Yes, I prefer the word limited. Yes.
Okay.
Because you're still remembered. That's why you have anniversaries.
Yeah. They remember you, but then.
That's it.
Over time, it fades.
Oh, it fades tremendously. And that's why there's that anniversary. The anniversary is to remind people that these people did exist and this person was significant when he was alive, and we shouldn't forget his significance even though he's no longer alive. Yes.
Okay. VG, introduce us to a land economist. Who's a land economist?
Okay. Actually, a land economist is, at that time, when I studied at the University of Nairobi, we did a degree called BA Land Economics. And the training of somebody to a land economist is that you end up becoming either a valuer, a land and buildings valuer. You can become an estate agent. You can become a property manager. You can become a facilities manager. But the scope of what you can do as a land economist is vast, because you've studied economics, you've studied a bit of law, you've studied about land administration, land management, and now it's expanded to even people who then become physical planners, land use planners, people in the urban development and management sector, city management, town management. So it's a vast way of, it's a very wide degree.
Is it still called land economics?
Unfortunately, I believe that they changed the name. They now specify it and call it, in a lot of universities, it's called BA or a BSc in real estate. So they've now sort of
amalgamated,
yeah, and just called it real estate. So at that time, when I was studying for my land economics, there was only one university that was graduating land economics. The University of Nairobi at that time, which we used to try and call ourselves the main campus, which people now don't like. And there were courses in Ghana, and the other places that did land economics was Tanzania and also in the UK. Even Uganda didn't have those courses to teach people about the landed profession. And that's why I call myself a land economist. But actually, I'm more of a real estate professional, encompassing everything real estate.
Everything.
Yeah. However, I then studied for a master's in the UK, in a master's MSc economics in urban development planning, housing option.
Okay.
Because that was the time I was working with the government. And I actually started my career at the State Department of Housing. Went to private sector, and I'm now 35 years later. Just
a guru.
Yes, I'm an expert.
He's entrenched.
Yes.
By practice and all.
Yes.
So you have been involved in the real estate development.
Yes.
Right? From planning to developing to selling to in the entire market space. And you've seen the transformation of our real estate sector.
Yes.
How would you describe it over the last 35 years?
You see, when we started, there was a lot of involvement of government in housing. If you look at in terms of civil servant housing, in terms of the National Housing Corporation, in terms of development of housing for police housing, which we are calling institutional. But as we progressed over time, housing lost, it was no longer a priority for government. They felt private sector will do whatever it is to provide the housing. And the only time that a serious shift came was in 2017 when the government, the Jubilee government, then decided that they are going to come up with what is called the Big Four. And affordable housing was one of the pillars of the Big Four, apart from food insecurity, universal health and all that. And that was all came up as a result of a McKinsey study that was done in 2017. So when President Uhuru Kenyatta came into power, he then said, we are going to focus on affordable housing. And I remember going to, and I've been called to the Ministry of Housing in 2017. And the new government had been sworn in, and we were told, this is the new thing. There's going to be the affordable housing program, and it's going to require a lot of the private sector to develop affordable housing, and the government will be more of an enabler, providing the enabling environment to spur development by the private sector. And so we identified various things that needed to be done for government to spur that development. Land, provision of infrastructure, the major infrastructure, putting the sewer, the roads, power, enabling environment in terms of permit approvals, legislations, and things like that, and then also. So those were the things, and also access to finance, both from developer finance and end-of-user finance. Of course, it had already been recognized that Kenya has 26,000 mortgages, and I think we've gone up. Maybe 5 years ago, maybe it was about 22,000. Maybe it's gone up to 26,000. I know the government have been talking about increasing that to about 1 million. That's an illusion, so that's not a reality. I know what your question asked. So the reality, yes, the government has got a very good intention. 2018, they stated they will build 500,000 houses in 5 years.
In 5 years,
yes.
100,000 a year.
So they relied on a study that had been done by the World Bank, which goes back to about 2016, which stated that there was a deficit of about 50,000 houses per year.
Yeah.
Okay. The big question, I have my own opinion about that, and I think it's
about the World Bank study.
Yeah, I mean how they reached that figure. I think somebody was just trying to push the narrative so that we could get some funding to develop housing, and not necessarily that there was a deficit of 50,000. In fact, somebody made a joke and said, have we had done a census and found that there are 50,000 homeless people? Or what is the study? The big problem we have in this country is that a lot of the population are not living in decent and dignified housing. So when you talk about decent and dignified housing, do they have sewer? Do they have water? Do they have roads? Today morning I had the benefit of listening to your Kibra about the task force on Kibra. Yeah. I mean, when it rains in Kibra, it's unbearable. It's a mess. Mm-hmm. Okay. And today I was happy to learn that there is a new terminology for some slum upgrading. It's putting lipstick on a pig. I found that really hilarious. So now we are talking about affordable housing rather than slum upgrading and all that. But it's all a question of wanting to put whatever name we want to put it. What is affordable housing? And I think that's a big question that has been at the top of everyone's mind. What is affordable? Who? To affordable somebody. To whom? To whom? Affordable to whom? So what has happened is that the housing that has been developed, and because it has not been enough, has pushed various income down the chain. Yeah. And they have pushed the people who would have lived in some of these houses to stay in the slums. So if you look at Kibra, if you look at Majengo and whatever, they did this, what they call slum upgrading project. They allocated it to the people there. But in the end, those people moved back to the slums and rented their homes. So what is their priority? The priority is raising the income levels so that people can get out of poverty. So fast forward, we grappled with trying to understand affordable housing from 2018 to 2022 and how many houses were delivered. I think if you want, there could have been about 9,000 houses in those 5 years of what they call affordable housing. The affordable housing program has been premised on we're building to own, not building to rent, but we're building to own. We want people to become homeowners. And it's a big debate. Do all these people want to become homeowners?
Do they need to be homeowners?
Do they need to become homeowners? When you look, and I'm not saying that I've done empirical studies about this, but the generation, what we call the millennials and the Gen Z, have other priorities in life. They don't necessarily want to own a house. They want to rent a house and rent in an affluent place and put their money into money markets and things like that, and also party. So that's what they do.
Put money into eating.
Those people think of today. Right. They don't think about tomorrow. So in 2022, the Kenya Kwanza Manifesto then states they want to build 200 to 250,000 houses a year. So I said, wow.
Up from 100.
Yeah, 100. So the reality, yes, they want to build them. Whether they will build them, that's going to be another illusion. But let's go and start looking at what. So we've talked about 200,000 a year. 2022 was August. We did elections. We're now in August 2023. I don't think we even have 50,000 houses built. And some were completed last year in 2022, but that was things previous had started. So the affordable housing program, in terms of what is intended and what will be achieved, only time will tell. So what we need to look at is to be able to understand what is the government's intention. And I can tell you, even as a practitioner in the real estate, I'm sometimes struggling to understand it. So
you're struggling to understand it
because there are so many moving parts.
What would make it, if you heard the words coming from somebody, what would then make it as a practitioner? Because some of the things that you've told us, then in terms of what you've been able to understand, and one thing that struck me is that, if you're going to talk about affordable housing, you cannot talk about affordable housing without talking about raising the income bracket of any individual who you want to move from point A to point B. So what kind of words coming from the mouth of someone who has a plan, or a group of people who have a plan for affordable housing in a country like Kenya today, would make sense? What would make sense if you heard certain things and say, okay, yes, as somebody who understands the system and understands what's necessary for this to happen, this what this person is saying, I can see. Vis-a-vis what you're currently saying now.
You see, the thing is that what has got to be clear is that the government should not be in the business of building houses. And that's where we're going to.
Why?
As a government, you are in. That's not your business. Your business is to enable,
to create an environment,
to put those houses.
Yes.
Let's have the infrastructure. Let's have the roads. Let's have the water. Let's have the obtaining of a business permit or a process or obtaining of a building permit affordable, easy, ease of doing business. Currently, Kenya is operating on a 1968 building regulations. We have been trying to go through the process of developing a new building regulations that will also adopt new building technologies. So we have still been debating, going to workshops. It is now, I think, somewhere in the ages chambers.
Yeah.
But we have not prioritized, let's develop these building regulations. In the 47 counties, the process of getting a developer's permit, a permit to build, is a nightmare. There is no clear, defined process. So if that process can't, bureaucracy, and bureaucracy breeds time, and time is money. Therefore, the private sector are not that much interested in developing affordable housing because the profit margins are very low.
They're too low.
So now government has decided they want to step into affordable housing and they want to build this affordable housing on land that they have identified. In fact, what I checked was that they had identified, if you go to the Bomayango, and I would urge a lot of the listeners to go and see what is on the Bomayango. The government has identified 569, I think,
parcels of land.
So that's what they have identified. When you look at the government's intention and statement of what they want to do about affordable housing, they're focusing on saying what will be the impact on GDP. The second thing they're focused on saying, it will lead to job creation. The third thing they're saying, it's formalization of the informal sector. There's not much of saying how they're going to deliver these houses. And recently, it was said that it is not about the housing. It's creating employment. Okay? So,
so there's a lot of confusion. But then, Gikonyo, in a way, I see the government responding to the questions that you raised to them in 2017 when they called you. When you said, as a private sector, if you want to focus on housing, these are the things that you need to do to spur private sector involvement in housing sector. One, look at land, because land is a huge capital cost. Number two, look at taxes and other incentives. Number three, look at how you also support this environment. So look at what the government is now doing with this affordable housing. They've identified land. And this land is zero cost to the developer. Number two, they say, developers, we have these parcels of land, please bid to participate in these projects. Okay? So when a private developer, then bids to participate in this project, there's the other thing that they do. They say, if you are working on this affordable housing project, there are a couple of tax incentives, right? There's some tax rebates that you get. So they've addressed tax. And number four, offtake. With the housing levy, they are guaranteeing you as a private developer, this is what we agree. This is going to be your unit cost for every square foot, and this is how much we're going to pay you per square foot. So you're already guaranteed an offtake and a market. You as a private developer, why would you be complaining?
Eric, I would like to challenge you on that.
All right.
Okay? Because the housing levy has been passed. And the housing levy was passed through the employment, I think the Employment Labor Act. So they're taxing you. Initially, there was to say it was a savings account, it was a savings, and then savings. Then it was passed as a levy or a tax.
It's a tax.
Okay? We went towards Parliament and made a presentation to Parliament and said, so that you have this housing levy, what are the regulations of how this levy will be collected? It's been collected by KRA. But then how will this housing levy or this housing fund operate? Unless you have some inside information.
They said regulations are coming.
Yes. So what happens is regulations are coming. We haven't seen them. So we don't know what it's going to be. So we don't know whether there is a guaranteed offtake. We don't know what it is. So the State Department of Housing has had some discussions and about maybe 2 weeks discussions. They've gone on a retreat. They're going to present the regulations to the what do you call it, to the cabinet, and then they will come, and then there will be obviously public participation and all that and whatever. So that could happen. We've started paying the housing levy. It's going maybe to the consolidated fund, but after that, we don't know how it's going to be used. Okay, so there's been advertisements of various projects that's been done. So even if those projects are done, so are they going to use that fund to fund the development of this construction, or are they going to fund the offtake from a private developer?
Yeah,
I don't know.
That question is still grey.
Yes,
but the other three are not grey.
Yes,
land available, land cost for developer removed, bid, participate in this affordable housing project. Okay, you benefit from tax incentives, tax and all the other costs removed. So it's spurring private sector involvement in affordable housing or in cheaper housing than what you would go to market with.
Okay. The thing is, there are a lot of developers who have gone for that affordable housing. There are a few who have applied for those tax incentives and have been able to get them. But I don't believe there are more than 10 that have already applied for them. So what happens is that the private sector and even the ministry have stated that the reason why they are coming to play into the affordable housing is they believe only 3% of the private sector the affordable housing is being provided. Only 3% is being provided by the private sector. So they're saying is that the other 97 has got to be provided by government. Now, will government be able to produce the cost of construction at 50 meters, 50,000 per square meter in shillings?
Why is that 50,000 significant?
Because then how much are you selling the house for? Because for a 20 square meter house, you want to sell it for 1 million. Okay?
Okay. Just so that we understand, the 1 million shilling house, the size again is what?
20 square meters.
Okay. What does it look like? Okay, this room that we're in.
Maybe this is bigger than 20 square meters.
It's bigger.
Yeah.
So something smaller than this is supposed to have a bedroom, all the facilities you need in the
20
house.
square meters is 5 by 4.
Yeah, about that much.
5 meters by 4 meters.
Let's take a break.
It'll be snug.
27 minutes to 10. Kenya's biggest conversation, hosting Ekonyo Getonga, who is a land economist and a real estate professional. Affordable housing. Is it reality? Is it an illusion? Is it going to come? Is it not? We'll ask the land economists to define what affordable is. From government perspective, from World Bank perspective, from everybody else's perspective, from the developer's perspective. What does it mean?
While you were away, CT was watching Alvin and the Chipmunks.
Alvin and the Chipmunks?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
He enjoyed it.
I like animation.
He likes animation. And the little 3 chipmunks, they wear t-shirts, red, blue, green. And CT likes them because they play music, guitar, those things. And they tour the world. You also can watch it on DSTV.
All right.
So you can enjoy how he has been enjoying.
All right.
All you need to do is tune in to Nickelodeon. It's DSTV channel 305. Don't look at me like that. You know you like it, CT. Open your kids and your adults to the wonder-filled world on DSTV and get this and much more kids content from over 15 dedicated channels. Dial *423# or download the My DSTV app to get a DSTV decoder with 1 month of family for just 2,999 shillings.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Isangapi bwana Simba?
Isaya Zigen Shako.
Isangapi bwana Simba?
Isaya Garbage Boy na Trash Can.
Isangapi bwana Simba?
Isaya Henry Danger.
Kila saa ni saa ya fun na enjoyment na GoTV. GoTV kuna show za kubamba watoi wa all ages na familia yote. Furahia Garbage Boy and Trash Can kila weekday at 5:45 p.m. on Cartoon Network. Halafu ujinaiz na Zigo and Shark at 6:45 p.m. on Cartoon Ito. Nayo weekendi ni ya kujinaiz na Henry Danger at 6:45 p.m. on Nickelodeon. Dial *423# to get and stay connected to shows moto za kuchachisha August holiday. GoTV, love it.
Oh, finally! It's my Standard Courier delivery.
At Standard Courier, we know that your time is valuable. That's why we guarantee swift and efficient deliveries to your doorstep every time. Give us a call on 0793 599 684 or schedule your next delivery by visiting our website www.standardmedia.co.ke/courier. Trust Standard Courier service for all your courier needs. We deliver with pride.
3, 2, 1.
The holidays are here, and MultiChoice is giving your kids a fun-filled day, all day, every day on both GoTV and DSTV, offering the best of kids' entertainment for all ages. Tune into the Situation Room to find out more about what they have in store for you during this holiday season and why you should subscribe and download the GoTV and DSTV apps. Okay, so coming out of traffic hour this morning, it hasn't been too tumultuous this morning. A little bit of traffic here on Lunga still left, and Landis Road is still busy. You see the busiest of it on Uhuru Highway, that's coming in from the Nyeri Stadium roundabout, on Uhuru Highway through to the CBD and out towards Westlands. And we're also looking at some of it coming off of Kiambu Road, a little bit left, but you'll be fine. And Limu Road also dealing with the dregs of Monday morning traffic, as well as off of James Gishero through towards Westlands. It's been a good Monday morning. Let's keep it a good Monday afternoon, shall we? Spice FM KE on Twitter through the day. Let's talk as we keep things moving through the day.
Spice FM Nyeri. Business news with Spice FM.
I'm Dennis Aseto. Transport Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen has convened a consultative meeting among leaders of ride-hailing companies, drivers and government representatives. The meeting, set for September 2023, aims to collectively tackle the sector's issues. The participants in the meeting are expected to adopt a comprehensive strategy in order to tackle the existing challenges within the sector, which contributes millions of shillings to government revenue. Port Sacco is targeting Nairobi customers after opening a new branch at the Inland Container Depot in Embakasi. The Mombasa-based microfinance institution will also be expanding across the 47 counties soon. Commissioner of Cooperatives David Obonyo said the Port Sacco's microloans will benefit small SMEs in the capital city. Food manufacturer Capel Industries has diversified into biscuit businesses as the firm seeks to expand its portfolio. The Thika-based firm launched a new biscuit range called Tritos, coming as the company celebrates its 25th anniversary. Capel boasts some of the notable brands such as Maize Flowers, Soko and Amaze, and Pearl Green brands, as well as Yola. Somalia's government has announced a ban on social media platforms, TikTok and Telegram, and an online betting app, saying they were being used by terrorists to spread propaganda. The move comes ahead of a much-anticipated second phase of a military offensive against Al-Shabaab, the Islamist militant group that has been waging a bloody insurgency against the central government in Mogadishu for more than 15 years. In a statement, the Ministry of Communications and Technology ordered internet services providers to implement the ban by August 24th or face unspecified legal action. For Spice Business, I'm Dennis Aseto.
Spice FM Business. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Reality, is it an illusion? So let's go there, VG. Let's define affordable. What do you understand affordable housing to mean?
affordable is that house that will be able to, it does not have to be that it's got to be owned by the person.
Mm-hmm.
What it has got to be, it's also that it can be rented within a certain percentage of the household's income.
Yes.
And also, even if it is not formal income, it is what is even the informal sector. So out of your disposable income after you've paid you've received your gross, there was a rule of thumb when we were being taught in university that you should not be spending more than 35% of your income
on housing.
On housing. So is that affordable? That is what I believe is affordable. But what has happened is that the government has now defined the affordable housing program, and they came up with various income bands to try and say that anyone below 150,000, anyone earning below 150,000, that is the target market of which we are trying to get to call affordable housing. So what we've done is that we have put an income threshold as defining affordable, and then also it's gone further to say that these houses got to be about below 3 million and below. But the number, but now the number has expanded a bit. Sometimes it's 4 million, maybe it's 5 million. So it's an ongoing conversation on what is really affordable.
So then, even if we were to look at that, let's look at both spectrum.
Yes.
Okay, on renting and on owning via mortgage.
Yes.
That's long term. If we are looking at a majority of the Kenyan worker who is in the population, the majority of the Kenyan formal employees are in the 30 to 40,000 shilling income bracket.
Yes.
Right? So 30% of that is 10,000 bob.
Yes.
So we're talking about somebody who is renting a housing unit that is 10 Gs per month in rent. Or if it's a mortgage, it's 10,000 bob a month in mortgage. Would that go into 3 million?
No. Because what had happened is even when the housing fund was being promoted, the concept was that the housing fund you'll be contributing to it, and you'll be able to borrow less at about 5%.
Okay.
That was the intention. But now we don't have a housing fund. Okay, rather we have a housing fund, but it's not a saving. It's a tax.
Yes.
So you paid that money, and that money will be maybe used to subsidize the development of the houses, or as you say, it will be used to offtake from the private developer.
Is it specific that that tax will be used for purposes of housing only? Is there anywhere?
Until the regulations are in place?
Until the regulations are published?
No, so it's just a tax?
Yes, it's a tax. Just like you have the railway development levy, which is collected to develop the railway.
Although that one has a regulation. The petroleum development levy has a regulation. It says this is how the money shall be used. Can be used to develop the petroleum sector or to subsidize pump prices.
Yes.
This levy is not defined clearly in regulation.
But we will wait to see how it will be defined.
But
and
even,
we'll engage.
But even before as we wait, let me ask the question. How is this thing normally done? I ask from a position of ignorance. Do you put these structures in place first before the pronouncement, or do you pronounce first and then you put in the structures?
Ideally, the way it should have been done is put the structures in place. Going back to 2018, when the housing levy, the housing fund was going to be developed, they wanted to first of all amend the housing bill. So we have the Housing Act. We've got something called the Housing Act Camp 117, which is the legislation that regulates about housing, and it's actually the one that created the National Housing Corporation. So back in around 2016, 2017, we started engagements on how the legislation of the review of the Housing Act should be first done, so that the Housing Act is then done would create the National Housing Fund, will revitalize or engineer the National Housing Corporation. Because let's not forget, the National Housing Corporation was set up by government going back in 1967 plus to actually help develop housing for the government. It was a government institution. But over time, National Housing Corporation was not properly funded. So it stopped providing funding for housing. And the National Housing Fund, National Housing Corporation, actually had a fund, which what they did was to lend money to the then municipalities and the local authorities, and then those municipalities would develop housing, and they were then meant to repay their grant back to the National Housing Fund Corporation, and then National would start other projects. And if you remember, there was a time, there was a lot of, at the onset of devolution, National Housing Corporation was claiming ownership of some of these estates and wanting to then sort of to auction them or sell them and whatever. So as we're collecting this housing levy, is this money going to the National Housing Corporation, or is it going to a new body that is going to be yet to be created? Or is this money just going to government to then use for government to use to develop housing? The big other question is that when you look at the aspects of land and how land is appropriated in this company, how it's given out, is that some of this land is actually public land. So if it is public land and it was a user for, let's say, police housing or agriculture or whatever, have we gone in through the proper process of changing the use for that land? And then after that, once the houses are developed, how do you then say that those houses are going to be for only a certain part of the population and no one else, and exclude certain people from benefiting from that? So the housing levy or the housing fund, as we were being told, is that all of us will contribute, but only those people who are below 150 would benefit, and those guys who are from the formal sector. So what happens from those people? The people who are in the informal sector would benefit if they had made a contribution to the housing fund. And now we don't know whether the housing fund is actually can make a voluntary contribution or not.
That narrative was not well thought out. It's confusing at best.
The math was not mathing.
No. I mean, you listen to it, you hear it, and the first thing that comes to your mind is a question. And when you raise a question, another question comes up.
Yes.
Because if you segment it, it sounds good. You pay, you can afford, it's like you have paid membership fee.
Cash into later.
Yes. That bit makes perfect sense. But then there's a bit now which sort of like curves into Ponzi scheme territory. So you're not really sure what it is that this money is actually meant for, and somehow you are contributing and it's going somewhere else. Clarity would be necessary and useful in such a situation so that you know. Yes. You see, it may not sound pleasant, but now that we know it's a tax, we know it's a tax.
Yes.
Okay, good. So this is the debate about, is it a tax, is it not? Done. But now the clarity. When I pay this money, when it's deducted, how exactly can I benefit from it? Because as things stand, if I have a pension, I can benefit from that pension. I can borrow against that pension right now. But with this one,
confusion.
At what point am I able to? You say you want me to pay 500, for example. What if I'm able to pay 5,000 and I'm able to reach the threshold quicker? Will I be put at the front of the queue? Will I be able to access whatever it is that is at the end of that particular?
That will all come, City.
Yes.
That will all come in the regulations. We are right now discussing regulation and engaging with the stakeholders. Once all that is clear, we shall bring the regulations.
Then
we'll invite you for your comments as well.
I'll pause there, then ask the question, because I was going somewhere with this. You see, all that makes sense when I hear the numbers of houses that were proposed to be built. Then it gives me a chance. When you say 200,000, I feel somewhere in between that 200,000 per year. Even if it's not this year, next year, I will be involved. If not next year, the year after that, I have a chance. But then, reality check. With everything that is being discussed, is it really possible to do that?
I honestly do not see the 200,000 units being built in per year. So far, if you go to the Boma Yangu website, and even you download the affordable housing program, since May 2023, the current or ongoing projects were 9,935.
Projects, that's 9,000
that were ongoing
units.
projects.
Units.
Yeah, units.
9,935.
These are what are stated in there. Then there were projects to be launched, was in the stated at the affordable housing program, was 31,000. And you know, from August, the president has gone, and His Excellency the President has gone to launch various projects. So launching them is, maybe there was a contractor who has been identified.
Yeah.
He has broken ground.
They're ready to mobilize.
Break ground. And the question is, you will see that they have broken ground.
Right.
You most likely go to the site and see there is a board showing that there are 31,000 units. Okay? So that in total comes to 77,000 units. Then there was an affordable housing bid round, number 1. This is all in public domain. You can find it. And State Department advertised 59 housing projects. This was either county government, National Housing Corporation, civil servant housing, and NHC. And this was they talked about 800 acres across 22 counties. And the estimated was that the houses that would be built or units would be 66,000. Approximately 66,138. So we are waiting to see this, because the bid does not. They're now evaluating the bid, trying to enter into contracts and everything.
It will take some months.
Yes.
Before.
Out of those 59 total projects, 34 parcels in 14 counties had bidders, while 24 parcels did not attract bidders. So 34 has bidders, 25 don't. So what's the success rate on that? I'm not very good in maths.
It's more than 50%.
More than 50%, yes, actually.
So now, out of those bids, they've maybe been evaluated. I think the last time by May. By now, they should have been evaluated.
Yeah.
Then there were round 2 had 50 parcels of land from 2 counties, 278 acres, 41,703. And then they're talking about 200 units per constituency, which comes to another 58,000 units. So in total, in the pipeline, from what has been built through Affordable Housing Program 1 and 2 and the constituency, the total build is going to be 136. 136,027 units. That's what's been built.
Plus in the pipeline.
And even what is in the pipeline, even if they go to tender, and by the time they finish the tender, build approximately 2 years.
Yeah. So 138 housing units in 2 years.
In 2 years.
Not 125 per year.
No.
How many houses does the private sector churn out in a year? You've been in the leadership of the Kenya Private Developers Association. You'd know these numbers.
I think there could be maybe 100,000. But also the problem we have is a lack of proper records. And the KPDA has, and this is what we need to start expanding, is to see how many houses are there being built outside Nairobi.
Right.
Because a lot of the focus has been on what is being built in Nairobi. The thing is that those people in the rural housing, and this is one thing that we are losing out. What is our plan for rural housing? Because a lot of people build houses in the rural areas.
Yeah.
The teacher in Sierra, the teacher in whatever, and these people are being told you're going to be part of the affordable housing. But nearly every teacher
has a house.
He has built it with his circle.
Sure. And even the person who may not be in formal employment like that, an individual who has a little farm somewhere, has built something, call it whatever you like, but has built something that is his or her own, that they can live in. It all still leaves a bit of not too sure, uncrisp taste in my mouth, because the question still remains that the numbers are ambitious, the plan is ambitious, but the truthful, honest question here is that, is it possible for what has been planned out, bring in the tax levy, whatever you want to call it, or how the money will be brought in? Not a political question, but a factual question here, based on the things that we see, adding all the factors and elements. Is it possible to have an affordable housing project realized with the ingredients that are currently available in the country today? Is it possible?
It is only possible if we found the financing to do it. The other question we need.
Well, they said there's a levy, there's a tax.
Yeah, there's a levy.
Financing. What do you mean financing? What do you mean? Because
financing for the construction, but also the thing is there going to be enough financing or demand for people to buy and for people to borrow? A lot of the people who have built their own houses have built their houses incrementally, and they have taken loans from their SACCOs.
Okay.
Yes.
Then would this particular program, if it was anchored, say for instance, in marketplace where you have traders who actually make money, this what they call SMEs, you call the Wakali associations and so forth, because they're all in associations. People who produce fresh farm produce, all these people who have as a revenue stream, a source of income. Would it then make sense if this scheme was anchored or was promoted with such people in mind, and if they plugged into the organization that these people have, where they put their money?
I think that's what they're trying to do. But they're trying to do that through the Kenya Mortgage Refinance Corporation, which is meant to lend to the SACCOs and to the banks.
Meant?
Well, they say they have lent.
It is.
So practically, this doesn't make sense, Gikonya.
That's a very harsh statement.
Okay.
How much sense does it make?
Practically, what sense does it make then with things that we are seeing currently constituted? How much sense does it make? On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being it's perfect, we're gonna do this. 1 being you've got to be crazy. Where are we?
What do you need to do to make it make sense?
I think I'll be able to say maybe 4.
4.
Yeah.
Okay.
Government is trying to enter and provide a solution of which they are not best placed to do. That's not their business. If it is institutional housing or providing housing for police who live in deplorable places, that makes sense. But trying to provide housing to the general public and thinking that they can sell it, it's not going to make sense. The other thing about the whole affordable housing is that it has been driven as a national project. Housing is a devolved function. Every county is meant to assess their requirements and actually develop their own housing. And prior in 2007, around 2018, 2019, the national government was going and signing MOUs to develop housing, collaborated in counties. You know, they go to some county, they went to some counties, and those counties, they don't even own even one piece of land. When they went to Homa Bay, they found 16 acres, which eventually they launched the 15 I think some land there. They went to West Pokot and went to Turkana and some. I'm not talking badly about them, but for NS7's sake. So
where is the demand?
When the governor...
That's a private sector talking. You see,
when you start saying that you're going to build 5,000 houses in West Pokot...
and who's going to take them?
Yeah, who's going to take them?
It's called demand creation.
Okay. There is question of demand.
Go to Kapenguri and build 5,000 houses. You'll see people occupying them.
Okay.
Gekonyo, thank you for joining us. Ikanyo Ketonga is a land economist, is a real estate professional. He's been our guest this morning talking about affordable housing, reality or illusion. Thank you very much for tuning in to Kenya's biggest conversation. You do have yourself a lovely day. We'll see you again tomorrow morning, 10 a.m.
Thanks.
Spice up your life.
Good morning, this is Newswire. Dennis Aseto. Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has warned that the fight against drug and alcohol abuse in Mount Kenya will continue. Speaking in Nyandarua County during the launch of a project aimed at strengthening the bodaboda sector dubbed Bodaboda Yangu Ofisi